for some reason I feel like I can please everybody by not making any enemies or not speaking up and being confrontational. I feel like for some reason, that means that everyone's going to be happy.
Yeah.
But that just, I mean, some people will be happy, but what I've also learned is that also means that some people will just think that I'm weak.
Yeah.
Because I am being weak.
Yeah.
When I feel strongly about something and I don't speak up about it, well, then I definitely am being weak. So I'm actually betraying myself for the good of someone else to try and not make a conversation awkward.
I think here's the thing too. A lot of people feel like if they do speak up and voice their opinion, it's not necessarily being confrontational. It's just having an opinion.
Yeah.
And if other people are triggered by that, that's them, not you. Like it's hugely them.
Well, you know what too? I think what's something that I've learned too is that for me, I think that everyone's going to be, and I think everybody has this a little bit, that everybody's going to feel the way that I feel about certain responses. Let me give you an example. Being confrontational, I tend to be like, ooh, I know that I'm a non-confrontational person.
Yeah.
So I tend to bristle a little bit when people are confrontational. But the irony is that confrontational people, they don't bristle because that's how they roll.
That's it, yeah.
So if I actually can just go toe-to-toe with someone like that who is being confrontational and just be calm, they actually handle it really well. And then so do I, because I'm a calm person.
Yep.
So I can actually, if I just grow a pair and step into it and just go, you know what, I don't know about that, then I don't have to be like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's when it's going to derail everything. Yeah. But to actually just go, yeah, I'm going to push back on that.
Yeah. It's just open to receiving another opinion and go, hey, look, respectfully, I'll disagree.
Yeah.
And this is my thought. And it's half the time you can actually make sense of why they think or feel the way they do. And then if you explain yourself properly, they'll be able to do the same. So, yeah. Shoot. And especially in the line of work that we are, there's a lot of pushback.
Yeah, well, you are in. We've started, by the way.
Yep.
I figured just roll
in.
Yeah. You're in a place. Well, let's talk about Heartled Warriors, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, can you describe that line of work that you're in? What you're doing? How do you describe it?
How do I describe it? It's a really great question. It started off as men's work, but it's turned in. Yeah, men's work is in men's healing work, men's growth work. There's lots of different names. Men's shadow work. There's so many different names for it. I just like to call it growth work. Part of that growth work is healing their inner child, healing past traumas, healing past life traumas. We go deep with it. And what we discovered, because my wife is a huge part of the company, Heartled Warriors is just a small, I shouldn't say small part, but just a part of what we do. The overall Muller coaching and mentoring is there. So what we learn, because we host women's and couples retreats, the work is everyone's work. It's not just for men. Sure. Yes, we do specific things in the men's retreats, and if I've got one-on-one clients, there's specific things I'll do with men that I don't probably do with women. But yeah, that's the basis of it. So yeah,
because I came across your stuff actually before we even got in contact with each other. My wife shared your page with me, and because we'd moved to the Gold Coast, and I was thinking, I don't have any fucking friends, So like, I've got a couple of friends here, but I was like, I need to go out and meet people. I need to join a gym. I need to have some guys around, and so my wife shared your Heartled Warriors thing with me. And I got to be honest, man, very confronting.
Yeah.
The Instagram page is, it's really hard to watch sometimes because it's so beautiful what's going on, but it's also like, it scares me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it scares a lot of people to see these. So basically what I'm describing is you see these guys who are, you have these videos of guys who are just like purging past trauma in such a cathartic, explosive way. Like guys just screaming things about whatever's going on in their inner world or that's happened in their past. And fully grown men bawling their eyes out and screaming with rage or with sadness or with happiness. And it's like, oh fuck, especially when you're scrolling through Instagram and you see you see some cat, and then some funny little cat video or whatever, and then the next thing you see is a guy doing some of the deepest shadow work. It immediately, for me at least, wakes that stuff up for me. I'm like, oh man,
yeah, I love that because, and a huge hats off to Semi, our videographer, because he puts the clips, the reels that do evoke that emotion from everyone, he puts together. So it's huge hats off to him because he portrays, he's in the men's work as well, and he's able to convey that emotion through a friggin' video, like a little clip, a 30-second clip. And yeah, there's purpose as to why we show that stuff, and that is to get those feelings from everyone. And the question we always ask, why? Why is it bringing up that feeling? Why is that discomfort in you? Generally because there's a lot of unresolved trauma for a lot of people. And that's only part of the weekend. There's lots of other stuff that happens during the retreats. There's lots of laughs, lots of bonding for men, bonding in a different area. You're almost forced to become really great friends really quickly in the matter of 2.5 days, because you actually open up and share more than what you would with probably mates of 20 years, like the real deep stuff. So
I feel like that is an inevitable side effect of vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you were saying, there's lots of good times with these retreats. There's no way that it could be easy to, and I think incorrect, to watch these videos, these highlight reels of the big emotional, cathartic experiences and go, oh, that's that type of guy.
Yeah.
That I'm not that kind of guy. That guy's one of those weirdos who is too in touch with his emotions.
Yeah.
But the reality I am sure of, and I know you would probably agree with this, is that that's not who those types of guys are.
No.
And that takes, you can't just, I mean, there are some people who you can just get them to do that.
Yep.
But most men especially, there's got to be a whole bunch of making them feel comfortable and to be that vulnerable, right?
Yeah. So if everyone's number one safe value in life, if they don't know it already, and they probably would say that's love or money or something like that, everyone's got different value systems. Everyone's number one value unconsciously is safety. Safety and trust. Men and women and couples, they will not share and do what they do if they don't have our trust and feel safe. So, and supported and loved. Love is a huge part of what we do. That's why we share so much of what we do online. That's why every Monday night, my wife and I are lives, and we're on this, like, social media is such a great tool for this, because it's able to have people look at us and get to know us without actually getting to meet us. And there's that, even just coming to one of the retreats, there has to be some level of trust there already. So, and to, like, all of the yelling and screaming and stuff that you see on most of the reels is within the first 3 or 4 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a bit of an icebreaker.
Huge icebreaker. And to be able to do that, there has to be a huge amount of trust. And and I feel myself, my wife, anyone that's within the team now or past, we've all lived these past traumas ourselves. Like we're in this work because we've been on the other side.
Sure.
So I think that helps as well, because everyone, like, one thing everyone says is they feel so welcome, so safe, so trusted, and just that's a huge part for us. So that's the number one priority for us, is everyone's safety. What's
your background with, like, training? Are you a therapist, or, like, what have you?
No, so I left school thinking that I was going to be a football star. Didn't quite go that way.
What age was that?
18.
Yeah.
18. Left school, finished school, signed with a team, signed with Canberra, and then went and played for their feeder club in Ipswich for 12 months. There was lots of stuff going on for me, that inner voice where I didn't believe in myself and all those types of things. So that didn't happen, which was fine. I then my dad was a police officer for 40 years. And then I thought I wanted to go join the police, and he really steered me in another direction.
Interesting.
Got a trade, carpenter.
Why do you think your dad was like, don't do what I do?
Because of everything that he's seen and he's done. I'm his little boy. I'm always going to be that to him, even though I was 18 and a man and all of those types of things. And he didn't enjoy it anymore. So if he didn't enjoy it, he didn't want to pass that on to me because he didn't think I'd enjoy it, which was a huge lesson for me too, because I didn't enjoy building. Just needed a job. And then I've got two young boys. My eldest boy used to walk around the house with a hammer and all that type of thing. And I'm going to be a builder like that. But I was like, you don't want to be a builder. You're not going to be a builder. And then I caught myself, and this is probably before I started doing some deep work. And I'm like, that's not right of me to say, to tell my kids that they shouldn't do something because I don't like it. So I really changed that. I reframed the way I did that for him, even though I didn't like it. I'm like, yep, if you want, that's what you want to do, then do that. So I then moved into child protection after about 17 years in the building industry. I was a investigations manager in child protection, a lot of courses and things like that. So that got me into the line of I really want to help.
What does that look like more specifically?
So I looked after Queensland, New South Wales and Western Australia foster families, did all the investigations, child protection, like child abuse, things like that. So that was...
Wow. That's a heavy gig.
It was heavy though. I loved it. I really felt like I was of purpose. And I think for anyone, finding purpose is huge in the life. And not to say that there's no purpose in someone building. I've got mates that are builders and they love it because they get to build these big, beautiful family homes for families and create their dreams, you know. So, but that just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Well, so you were looking into and uncovering basically kids being abused.
Yeah.
And ending that.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, moving them from foster family to foster family, which is, look, there's so much of it that goes on.
I was going to say, does that happen a lot?
So much. I think before Christmas 2020, I had something like 160 open cases in New South Wales alone.
Fuck.
Yeah. So and the severity changed. Like there's some really, really not nice stuff to stuff that you like, oh, okay, but it's all there. So
why do you think that that's happening? Why would you bother to take in someone else's kid only to abuse them?
The financial gain.
And what does that look like?
I actually don't know the actual numbers of what they get per child or something like that.
But you get payout.
But you definitely get looked after for taking in a foster child.
Wow.
So
okay.
a lot of it's
so it's like, oh man, someone renting a room in your house, basically.
Pretty much.
Who's a kid.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, there's some beautiful foster families and foster parents that do the most amazing work. And there's just some people that their values aren't right and they shouldn't be looking after their kid. I'm going to say their kids and other people's kids. So it's just, sadly, it's just part of the way the world is. So and there's just a lot of it. And like I said, I only looked after foster families. So times that by however many, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah. Okay, so how long are you in that for?
About 18 months. And then the company, it was a not-for-profit company that I was with, or foundation. The government discontinued their funding for that area of that. So being a subcontractor to them, I found myself without work. Even though I was doing all the courses and stuff, I did look into going to Department of Child Services, though I just didn't have the accreditation behind me. So experience alone wasn't enough for them, which I make sense of, which is all good. And then I actually finally applied for the police.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Full
so I was just like, so all I wanted to do, there was two things I wanted to go into. It was either the anti-terrorism or the CERT or child protection. So during that time, there was a lot going on for me personally within my marriage, within myself. Wife and I had been married at the time, six or 7 years, really at a really not a great stage in our marriage. I was deep in some post-traumatic stress from a traumatic childbirth, diagnosed with all the labels, depression, anxiety, all of the fun stuff that the medical professionals love to give you. Medicated, all the cool stuff.
Just on that, sorry to cut you off, but I often think about just how dangerous a diagnosis can be. because we know, and Western medicine knows this, how powerful the placebo effect is, right?
Yeah.
And they control for it in trials of drugs. They will give the control group nothing, who believes that they could be getting the drug that does something, and it's something like over 30% of them every time has the effect of the drug.
Yeah.
Because their mind knows that it's going to do that thing.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
That's hugely powerful.
So I tell you, as a medical professional, you are clinically depressed.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
So there's like 30% chance, don't quote me on the numbers, that's going to make you depressed if you aren't already.
Yeah, hugely. So I knew that I had dealt with this most of my life. I started having some suicidal ideation when I was 8 years old. And that's no one's fault. Was what I know now. I used to blame a lot of people for it, but it was just all my own doing. And I dealt with that my entire life. Probably could have done it a lot better, though when I finally was diagnosed, it gave me that excuse. And I have no doubt that I had depressive thoughts, but I never considered myself a depressed person. So having that, it actually made it 100 times worse, because then I had an excuse.
Yeah, because in your situation, it's not necessarily wrong, but it's also, it's damaged you.
Damaged hugely. So on the medication, gave me an excuse. It actually made my behaviours worse, because I had that excuse. I could go,
I'm off the hook because it's not my fault.
Yeah, I treated you like that because I've got depression. I did this because I don't like myself because I've got depression. All of that stuff. And then we were in a really, really shitty spot in our marriage, my wife and I. All this happened, and I still hadn't told her about my suicidal ideation. I'd hid that from her for nearly 10 years.
Wow.
Hid it from everyone. No one knew. I was the only person that knew. And my dad had recently been diagnosed with cancer, and Nadine's dad was knocking on heaven's door. We just had so much going on, plus all of this stuff within our marriage. We just decided to, we were in counselling. I was just seeing the psychs. We're doing everything we could. I was doing it for her, never for myself. Just keeping that Band-Aid there to keep us together. And it was working until it stopped. It was working until it didn't. And the thing that my wife is one of the strongest people you'll ever meet. And she led the way for us, because at the time I couldn't. And honestly, without her, things would be so different. I always get emotional just because I'm so proud of how far we've come. So she was like, we need to remove ourselves from this. There's so many things you can do, see the psych, see everyone, though the one common denominator was we're still in the same environment. So we needed to remove ourselves from environment. So we went from 0 to 100. We ended up selling investment property, selling a house, bought a caravan, and hit the road. We were like, homeschool our kids. Wow. We're going to really set off and travel and find ourselves.
Women are great at that, huh?
Yeah. She actually had to convince me, because I was doing some private carpentry building work at the time, just to help ends meet. And I was like, nah, I've got to work. How are we going to make money?
Yeah,
and she'd just left the Air Force, and she'd built a beautiful little, a beautiful community through Instagram and her social medias, and was doing a lot of sponsored content and things like that. And it was bringing in some great money for us. And she's like, that's enough for us to live. I'm like, okay. She convinced me, and then within a week we'd put a deposit down, and a few months later we were off.
What kind of van did you get?
It's a 21.6 litre.
Okay, that means nothing to me.
It's a family van. It's a big family van. It's got the bunks and everything. So
caravan, not
caravan.
Yeah,
cool. So caravan, bought the patrol and did all the build on that. And,
wow.
And it's been us for the last nearly 3 years now.
No way, man. With the boys?
With the boys and the dog.
And the dog.
We've got an American Staffy. He's a big 35 kilo
This is amazing.
Yeah, so we love it. And that is our life at the moment. So setting off, we were like, we need to do this to find ourselves. Again, we'd been doing some mentoring work, particularly Nadine in the health and fitness industry. She had clients and really she found that the best thing for her was helping people with their mindset. Coming from a very strong-minded person, she had that mindset. Probably within the first few weeks of travel, I had an alcohol-fueled night with some friends. We got into an argument, feeling pretty shit about myself the next day, sitting in the bottom of the shower, tears. Nadine come in, she's like, what's going on? And I just thought, fuck, I've got to tell her. I just said to her, I'm thinking of reasons why I shouldn't end it. And she'd been doing everything to pull me along. Her hand was like this every single time, all the time. She's like, come with me, come on, let's do this. And again, I was doing it for her, doing it for her. She tried it from every point of love, and then she knew herself that she needed to help herself. And the best way to do that was to give me some fucking tough love. And it was the best thing I've ever heard. There was the best words I've ever heard from her other than I love you was nobody's coming. And at that time, because I'd had everyone reach out and help me and show me love in different ways, I hated it. I'm like, what? Why are you saying this to me? Because you're supposed to love me. But later on, I found out that this was the biggest form of love she could ever offer. She said, nobody's coming. I said, I can write it with you. I can't write it for you. You have to do this for yourself. And it was a couple of days after, like I was just like, why is she saying this to me? But it was a couple of days later, I think I was with the boys. There's a few things, again, my unconscious started to get into its mode of what it needed to do. And it just landed. I'm like, no one is coming. Like if I really want to help myself, I actually got to help myself. And that was a huge shift for me. So I got on board. She was doing all these self-development programs and courses and facilitation courses and all that type of stuff. And I'd be in the caravan listening to some of them. I was like, what is this? Like, just thought it was a bit out there at the first. And I'm like, okay. Though some of the processes I started running through my mind, and I started picking up things from my childhood that I'm like, oh, that's why I do this. And that's why I do this. And having the community that Nadine had, she finished these courses and went straight into business and was calling in clients really quickly. So it went from 0 to 100 really quick. And there was one lady in particular that she was on a call with, and being in a caravan, I get to listen in. And again, there's not a lot of room in there there's no studio.
You can't really hide anyway.
No. And I was listening in to the call, and this lady was like basically writing her note, her suicide note. She got off the call and I said, hey, like, this is big. If this lady doesn't do the things that you need her to do for herself and it ends, are you going to be okay? She's like, it's not going to happen. Like, just that confidence in what she did and what she could provide. 2 weeks later, I come into the caravan, and this lady was on another call, one of her calls with Nadine, and because I could hear the sadness in her voice to begin with, and 2 weeks later, a complete 180. Loved life, loved herself, and I was just like, is that so-and-so? And Nadine was like, yep. I was just like, what is going on here? And I'm like, wow, there's lots of power to this work, this unconscious mind work, all of it. And I was just like, okay, I need to do this. And then signed up, did all the courses, and during those courses, someone brought a bit of men's work into the room. And I was just like, okay, this is really cool. And it was really primal. And there was a point, because again, at the time this company of ours had grown really quickly. We had probably 10 people working within the company within 3 months. And I'm like, and at that time I was still like, I need to know a bit more about this so I can be more involved with the company, because I was just back end and accounts and things at the time. Nadine had bigger plans for a men's section because it was all women at the time. And unbeknownst to myself.
She's a juggernaut, man. She's like,
mate. There's the 1%ers in this world. She's one of those 1%ers.
Yeah,
so,
wow.
And I'm like, okay, I need to go learn a bit more. So in the team meetings, I can actually,
you've got to catch up.
I can know what everyone's talking about. I'm like, unconscious mind, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
And during this, had this moment of this men's work, and there was a process that they did, and I did it, and I had never felt so free from myself and yet so in touch with myself at the same time. And it was at that point I'm like, I have to do this. It's going to be wrong of me if I don't give this to other people. Everyone should get this feeling. Everyone should be able to feel this. And I went really backwards with it. And within, I think, 8 weeks, we had our first retreat, men's retreat. I didn't have the one-on-one clients to get used to doing the work. I'm just like, it's a retreat. And then that was it.
Wow.
So, and now that's probably 18 months ago. The company itself's nearly 3 years old, but the men's, the Heartled Warriors, is almost 18 months old, and we've had thousands of clients now. And that's about couples. We've had about 13, 14 retreats, and it's just going from strength to strength. So,
man, whew, a lot in that, dude.
A lot, yeah.
What a
There's
journey.
more too. There's more.
Yeah, I bet.
So
it's that's something that comes to mind. Thinking about why I think it might be working for you is, you're able to sit here with basically a stranger. We've just met each other, and I know we're doing a podcast, but you don't have to tell me these ins and outs and these details. You don't have to come here and do this.
Yeah.
And there's a saying, you don't take guitar lessons from someone who can't play guitar.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're walking the walk with this stuff. And it's not like if it's nice to know that if I'm going to go to a retreat and do something that's going to take a tremendous amount of vulnerability to get beneath the surface, that the guy leading the charge, him and his wife, are
there.
People who are not only have been there but are still prepared to go there.
Yeah.
Still doing it.
100%.
If you present as this perfect together, facade, it might be flashy for a little while, but it's just not what humans are like. Hang out with yourself, and you go, I'm not even like that.
Yeah.
When how can we expect what we think everyone else is just put together perfectly all the time?
There's so much power in sharing, and I learnt that along the way. True power, it lies in vulnerability. If you want to be a powerful human being, be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Let yourself be vulnerable, because you actually inspire others with your vulnerability. And I learnt that again, speaking in front of people was never something I like to do, ever. Now, you wouldn't be able to tell, because I'm always talking, and I love it. I love getting in front of people and sharing, and it's one of my favorite things to do. And I learnt the power of sharing because I jumped on Nadine's stories one time, and she's got 35, 40,000 people in her audience, shitting myself. And I shared my story, my mental health story. Scariest thing I've ever done. And the support that I got was unbelievable. Though the people or the wives and partners that reached out about their husbands going, thank you so much for this, because I actually think this is my husband. I actually think this is my partner. And that was before I went into doing some work as well. And it was just these little things along the way that helped me get to where I was. So I'm all for sharing my story, no matter how many times. If people get sick of it, too bad, because it's the person that's only just heard it that might help. So, the power of sharing.
I agree with you, man. I think that there's, from my own personal experience in life, about vulnerability, even just a little bit. Let's say you're going to go to a party or something, and you're meeting new people. There's no. If you sprinkle in little bits of vulnerability from the get-go, you just watch how quickly you can bond with someone and get to know someone. And you'll also learn how quickly certain people that's going to make certain people uncomfortable, because it's too much for them. They don't go there themselves. And it's a very interesting kind of social experiment. You don't have to go too deep, but just,
just enough.
But no, below the surface.
Yeah.
And
it's
it really, it really endears you to people.
Yeah.
And it, I'm not trying to come across like, I need to make friends, but it's like, it does help you have real conversations. I mean, this is why I do a podcast. Yeah. I need this. Yeah. I need
deep and meaningful,
right? Like I need to be able to have real conversations, vulnerable conversations.
100%. It's how you make real friends.
Yeah.
Real friends. Yeah. So growing up playing footy, I had the same mates for 25 years. Some of those mates I still have. They're always going to be in my life. Though there's a huge thing of we talk about cutting cords.
Yeah.
So people that no longer serve you. So a mate of mine was part of my wedding party. Not long after I'd come out to Nadine to say, yep, having all these suicidal ideations, all these feelings. Again, another afternoon on the booze. He was there. Dane and I got into a discussion, and I ended up telling him. Didn't hear from him for about 6 weeks. So that was a huge eye opener for me. Like a mate of this long, part of my wedding party, I was a part of his wedding party. Didn't even bring it up. Didn't contact me for 6 weeks. I'm like, what kind of a mate is that? On the other side, I'm like, he doesn't have the tools, resources, or anything to be able to process this for him, because I was that person people come to with their problems.
Because it's a safe space.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or knew it, I mean, you know it now, but whether you knew it then is that you hold space for people in the sense that you're prepared to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So they're comfortable being vulnerable around you.
Yeah. So knowing that, because everything has polarity, right? Everything's a paradox. Knowing that I'd just told him that and he hadn't showed up for me the very next day, and then going, okay, yep, I know that he doesn't have, that would have been really triggering for him. Maybe he's having, everyone's a projection, right? So where in his life is he having those thoughts? Though, still didn't like, even though he wouldn't be able to handle it, there should have been, like, I feel, because I know what I would have done, I would have been on the phone the next day, like, hey mate, thanks so much for sharing this with me. It's huge. I don't know how to process it or deal with it, but I'm here for you. So that was when I learnt the power of energetics hugely, and to have people in my life that actually serve me. So I'll always be there for those guys. They're a huge part of my life, though I don't need to give them my energy if there's nothing in return. Yeah.
I've experienced that exact thing with people in my life that I'm very, very close with, and it's hard, it's really difficult to. One of the things that I've had to come to terms with is knowing that I'm not going to be able to have as deep of a relationship with them that I long to, and that stings, man.
Yeah,
like that's. But it's because of exactly what you just described. It's because they don't have the tools.
Yeah.
They don't, and I think that some people get to a point where you kind of can become calcified in who you are, and it's too confronting. I do believe that this work, like psychedelics or even these retreats without any psychedelics or anything, where you are like shadow work. Let's just call it that to make it easy, because that's essentially what psychedelics are doing. It's forced shadow work.
Yeah.
I think that can break people.
Yeah.
I do think that it's not like if what's the I was listening to Jordan Peterson talking about, as in his clinical work, and he hasn't done this study, but they all know this, all the clinical psychologists know this, that if the way to heal trauma is not to force someone into their trauma, it's for them to willingly confront their fears.
Yep.
They have to willingly do it.
Yep.
So like, for instance, I've got a little 2-year-old girl. She's scared of when we go to the playground. She's scared of the little balance beam. It only wobbles a tiny bit, and there's things you can grab onto either side, but she really doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So I can either go, you can do it, you have to do it, and that'll terrify her.
Yeah.
Or I can go, do you want to give it a try? Watch Daddy do it.
Yeah.
I can do it. Do you want to come? And if she still says no, I'm not going to force her to do it. But I put her on my back and we go over together, and then we get over and go, look, we did it. And I can see a little moment of, oh, maybe I can do that.
Possibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's facing the fears voluntarily.
Yeah.
But again, I think that, and coming back to adults, being forced or confronted with those kinds of shadows unwillingly, I think it can break a person.
It definitely can, yeah. So 100% agree, 100% agree. And we will never, it's a big part of our work, is we never tell someone what their challenge is, what their problem is. It's always the questions we have to ask, or get to ask, I should say, to bring that out of them so they can find it for themselves.
And for starters, they're not there. They don't show up if they're not.
No.
If they're not prepared to do it. It's like trying to get someone to quit smoking. If
they don't want to, they won't.
If they don't want to, they're not going to do it. Or quit anything, any addiction.
And I mean, so many people aren't aware of what the unconscious mind can do for ourselves. It's our safety net. So it will create your responses to keep you safe. It's a reaction for the unconscious mind. So if it thinks you're not ready, it won't let you either. Though you being there, like, we know that you're ready. There's a reason for it. So, and they've got the support of us and things like that. So again, we'll never go, this is why you're doing this. This is why you're doing this, until they figure it out for themselves. And like, yeah. So see, and we'll give them their little their journey. Whoop, turn that off. Give them their little journey and like, hey, so now can you follow the yellow brick road? This is what happened when you were 6, and this is why this happens and this happens. So yes, we will be able to lay it out for them, but it's for them to figure out themselves. So,
but if you wanted to start a cult, you could get them real vulnerable and then tell them what their problem is.
Hugely, yes.
Because that's how you do it. I've watched enough cult documentaries to see that common thread.
To start a cult.
I know. You've got to be a hardcore narcissist to want to really do it. But you think about, like, imagine if you are like a psycho. You're super low on empathy, right? I feel like I am someone who has more than my fair share of empathy, and it gets in the way of me achieving things and doing things in life, because I kind of tend to let people walk on me a bit, because I worry too much about other people's feelings. But I can still, so let's imagine that's gone. Imagine I don't care about how other people feel and how my actions affect them. You get, like, let's say you're in a position that you're in, and you get these men, women, people coming to you who are doing what we're talking about. They're just opening the door going, I'm ready to confront this. I'm fucking scared, but I'm ready to do it.
Yeah.
Immediately they're so open. Now, dude, if you wanted to, if you're messed up, you can
really
brainwash
you do some damage. Yeah. Because also, like I said, there's true power and vulnerability though. That's when people are they're most
easy to manipulate.
Yes. So it's, there's definitely, this is a growing industry, which I love, because having more outlets for men and women to be able to do this is fantastic. Though it's a really, retreats, financial gain, not huge. We do that because we love doing that. That's the love part of us. That's the service part. The online group mentoring, business, like, because we go into business development, everything, like, it's a huge, anything personal, professional development we do. And then when you get into that high-end business mentoring, it's really like the financial gain is fantastic. Like, it really is. We've created a company within a few years that's it's a multi-7-figure company now.
Because corporate money, right?
Yeah, and which is fantastic. So without that, we wouldn't be able to create the impact that we're creating as well. Yeah. So a lot of people go, oh, you're doing this for the money. No, we're actually not. We're doing it because we actually love it. What it's done for us, it saved my life. It saved our marriage. It's changed my kid's life as well. So that was a huge realization for me, was energetic side of things, generational trauma. And I actually tagged you in the reel. Like, the day we started chatting, of one of my greatest realizations was seeing my son Madden have all the attributes the negative attributes about myself in him. I could see it, like his self-worth, his self-doubt, his lack of confidence, how he would just turn inward if he was getting in trouble, he'd just close off. I'm like, fuck, that's me. That was me. And I needed to change myself, grow myself, so he wouldn't have to deal with my problems. Let him have his own. Like if he has traumas and things of his own when he grows up, not that I want that to happen, though that's great. He doesn't have mine to deal with as well.
That's huge, man. That is. Let's just button that. I need to heal myself and deal with myself so that my child doesn't have to deal with my problems.
Yeah.
I just feel like that is massive.
Yeah.
I feel like that is so huge, and it can be so easily overlooked because it is so difficult and uncomfortable to do, especially when you're trying to be a parent.
Yep.
You know, like you're trying to be the adult. You're trying to have your shit together.
Yeah.
And you can so easily, unwittingly just vomit out all your unresolved crap onto these little beings that are absorbing everything that you do.
Yeah.
Not so much what you say,
what you do
and
that
who
old
you
saying,
are.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
That should not exist.
Yeah,
It really hit home, and I was just like, and I said it online. I said how selfish of me it would have been for myself to not live my best life. How selfish it would have been of me if I hadn't worked on myself and passed these on to my son. How selfish it would have been of me to not do the work and then one day be at my son's funeral because he's taken his life because of the shit that I didn't face. Like that's the reality of it. And if that's not an activation for any father, mother, parent, anyone out there to go, oh, I've actually got some shit to sort myself so my children don't have to worry about it, my grandchildren don't have to worry about it, I don't know what is.
True that, dude.
Yeah.
True that. And that's interesting. That's actually, from the little that I know about Buddhism, that's the Buddhist teaching, is essentially you got to start here. You got to handle your shit.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it says in the Buddhist book, handle your shit.
Yeah.
that's a direct quote from the Buddha. He had that tattooed across his chest, actually.
Funny you bring that up. We were in Indonesia last year, not Bali. We just went to old Indonesia, Yogyakarta, and we did all the Buddhist temples and stuff out there. And I hadn't known much about, I hadn't learnt much yet about their religion. And
it's a good one, eh?
Love it.
It's hard to fault.
It is.
There's no Buddhist wars.
No.
The Buddhists aren't killing anyone.
So their higher self, their seventh or 10th life or whatever it is once they reach that, that's eternal happiness. Like eternal happiness. That's the epitome of life for them, eternal happiness. So and this is another huge learning for me, and this is where it hit home for me. Beck and my younger son with the really traumatic birth, when he was born, I was working for I was project managing for a company here on the Gold Coast, construction company, like looking after $20 to $30 million worth of work. Hugely stressful, especially when you're not liking the work that you do. Though society, it looked really cool because I was this project manager and doing all this stuff. So we knew we were going to have a birth probably 10 days before he was born. Everyone in the company knew. Saturday he was born, I was getting emails and phone calls 2 hours after he was born. Couldn't have joined. I was sitting there and being the person that I was, I'm like, I can't not write back or let them know what's going on.
Too much responsibility.
Beckham was in special care because he was about 7 weeks premature and hugely, like anything that could have gone wrong in a birth, it went wrong. Though he's here living his best life. Sitting there trying to enjoy this, helping Nadine recover because she'd been through such a time herself. And then she was like, what's wrong? I'm like, I fucking hate this. I hate this job. I hate this industry. I hate this work. That's me. If you love building and that, I'm all for it. And then
you're allowed to feel that way.
Yeah. And she was like, quit. And that's all I needed, just that little bit of permission and the support. That's all I needed. And it's like this weight lifted off my shoulders. Wrote my resignation that afternoon, never went back. And that's when I went into child protection. Though Beckham being born was a huge catalyst for change in our lives, just to simplify things. Nadine was in the Air Force as a nurse. She'd been in for 13 years. Same thing for her, just hated it. So we started the process of getting her out. Fast forward many, how old's Beckham now? 4. Fast forward 3.5 years, Indonesia last year at this, I forget the name of the temple, but it's the largest Buddhist temple in Asia. And he fell asleep on me while I was there. And we're doing the tour and carrying him around, and Dean's like, "You're right, I can take him." He's not a big boy, but I was just like, "Nah, there's a reason why he's fallen asleep with me here right now." And then going up each level of this Buddhist temple, and then we got to the top and they explained what it was, and I was just like, Beckham started this for me in a huge way, and he's actually helped me lead myself to my eternal happiness. That was like a really huge moment for me. I'm like, fuck, like our children are our greatest leaders. And not as in leading the country, as in our greatest leaders. My eldest son led me to show me that how much work I needed to do for myself. My younger son led me to show myself how much I loved myself and how happy I am. So it was huge for me, yeah.
Fuck, that's huge. Beautiful, man. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. It's fascinating to think that how much it really cracks you open. Well, and some people shy away from that. Some people run.
It's scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
What's scarier, living the rest of your life as you are, or facing a little bit of hard work for 3 days at a retreat and changing your entire life? If that's the way you go, though, like, be more afraid of passing all your traumas onto your children. Be more afraid of not living your life to the fullest. Be more afraid of just existing and not living. Like, be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of bettering yourself. Don't be afraid of pure happiness, pure joy, pure love.
Momentary discomfort.
Yeah, like and it's easy for us to look at this now and go, oh, how aren't people doing this? And we make sense of it because at the time, a few years back, I was the same. I'm like, oh, that's yuck. That's because it's not a societal norm for people.
No, it's not. And you get better at it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing that it's like any of those things. Let's put it into something that's a little bit more relatable for people who haven't done like deep spiritual work. Working out or eating well.
Yep.
Something that we can all do. You can go, if you get you're in some bad eating habits, let's say.
All been there.
Yeah, we've all been, yeah. And then you go, okay, I'm going to do a meal plan, or maybe you order those online things and they turn up to your house and you get some motivation and you do it and you start. It gets easier.
Yeah.
As you keep doing it. It's the first time you eat a fucking salad, that's when you really want to eat cheeseburgers. It's like, ugh. Maybe you're full of motivation, but you're like, oh, this is so unsatisfying.
Yeah.
But that training of your mind and your discipline, it actually gets easier.
Yeah.
The more that you do it.
Yeah.
And it's the same. When you start doing this, when you start looking at yourself and start doing the work on yourself, it's still really hard.
It is, yeah.
But knowing, okay, this is gonna hurt, but I know that there's going to be such good stuff on the other side. You're armed with that. Yep. You have that memory. Whereas if you've never done it, it's all just fear.
Yeah, choose your hard.
Yeah.
Like choose your hard. Again, with eating well, like choose your hard. What's going to be harder? Heart attacks and heart disease and high cholesterol in 10, 15 years' time, or having a week or two of getting used to eating a little better and a little bit of exercise.
For years of benefit down the track.
For years of benefit down the track. Same sort of thing with just being the best version of yourself.
And you know what's really exciting? Now here in 2024, there's so much more of this kind of talk and people understanding this, where we live in a society that doesn't, in the mainstream, doesn't really support this that much.
No. Yeah.
But yet. People are catching on, and people are ignoring that stuff. I haven't watched mainstream TV for a good few years now.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And, you know, it's funny. I actually had a guy, his name's Shandor. He was on Gladiators.
I know Shandor.
Yeah. He's a good dude. He's
Great
He's a way deeper dude than I thought.
I just with him, and that's how like his part of your podcast with him showed up, and that's where I was like, and I saw that you follow me. I was like, this is great. So,
Yeah.
and like literally within 2 hours,
we'd teed this up. Yeah.
He, I went to one of his air lockers on the Sunshine Coast and met him, and great dude, and he's been a huge supporter of what we do. Yeah, so great guy.
Yeah. You can really. It doesn't take long to chat with him to figure out, to learn that about him.
He's real.
He's real. And I think it's, you know, maybe how big and handsome he is might be a bit distracting.
Yeah,
but you realise,
so pretty.
Yeah. He's like an enormous.
Yeah.
But so I was watching Gladiators, and I don't even have normal TV. Because I've just learned that so much of the normal TV stuff is just steering me towards junk, right? But I'm watching,
which is so fascinating for me, especially from your background being in TV as well, which is I love that.
Yeah, well, that's why I've been on this path, I guess, because I learned pretty early just how much of it is untrue. But look, and I'll get into that in a second, but the thing with I was watching Gladiators and there was ads that I had to watch. And I never watch ads anymore. And that was the first time in years I've gone, man, I can actually see straight through this stuff. Yeah. And because it's not the world that I live in the podcast world, and I watch videos, I watch YouTube stuff, and I watch stuff on Rumble. Rumble's a place where, you have to be far right to watch things on Rumble, according to the mainstream media. No, you don't. Yeah. It's just YouTube without censorship.
Yeah.
I don't want to be told how to think or how to feel. And now coming back to my background from being on TV, I guess as a kid, you said the main thing that people want is safety, and I think that's completely true.
Yeah,
but pretty close second is to feel, what is it? We want to feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
And what better way to feel seen and heard than to be famous?
Yeah.
Than to be on TV, to be an actor, to be on stage, to be on a movie. So who doesn't want that at some point in their life? Who can't look at that and go, oh, that would be cool?
Yeah.
So and I was good at it. And that's the world that I fell into.
Yeah.
And I didn't fall into it. I went towards it, and it embraced me.
Yeah.
But then once I started working in that world,
it would open your eyes up to a lot.
Yeah. I learned pretty quickly that there was, I'd do an interview, and they would tell me the questions they were going to ask me before, and I would they'd encourage me to prepare my answers before, and immediately I was like,
why?
Well, that's cool that you're not going to blindside me with something, but like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I can answer a question. Am I not allowed to answer a question a certain way? Oh, I'm not allowed to answer questions a certain way. I'm on Sunrise, so I have to
conform to what they want.
I've got a small box that I have to fit in here. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to be in trouble if I don't do this right. And by in trouble, I'm going to lose this opportunity.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like going through the journey of realizing, I think I'm ready to lose this opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't think that I want this opportunity.
How powerful is that too?
Yeah, it's been a trip.
Yeah.
It's been pretty a bit of a death, because that for a long
Ego
time
death.
That is who I thought that I was.
Yep.
Very strongly, and it's letting go of that was so freeing, but really challenging.
Yep.
Especially because you're also letting go of so much stuff that feeds the ego.
Yeah.
Even when you're just walking around the street, someone recognizes you. Oh, hey, yeah, fucking famous. And it's, but it's, that was a real journey.
Yeah.
And look, what kind of fame did I get? I was on Home and Away,
Was it Australia's longest running show?
Well, the interesting thing about Home and Away is that this is another thing that really kind of pushed me down that path of realizing what that is. Home and Away is such an institution that it has its fans, and those fans are diehard.
Yeah,
and they love it because it's a cool formula. If you're into that, it's a nice escape from the world. You get to sit down 7 o'clock, if that's even when it's still on. You sit down and you go, cool, this is my little escape. And I dig that. I get that.
Yeah.
I do. I have my own escape in different ways. But those people will love whoever you put on the show, really. They'll love people to different extents, but they just love the show.
Yeah.
And I realised pretty quickly that I was not getting much feedback of, oh, hey, Mark, I really loved the way you acted in that scene.
Yeah.
I loved your performance in that scene. It was really powerful. I almost got none of that.
Yeah.
Now, maybe wasn't the greatest actor at the time. Maybe I wasn't giving the most powerful performances. But I think more so the responses I was getting was, oh, Rick.
Oh, wow.
What's Cassie like?
Yeah.
How's it hanging out with Alf? And I was like, okay, these aren't real people. That I know them as Ray and Shani, these are actual people. And I immediately had to I was like, what do I do here? Do I either go along with it and go, oh, they're so cool, they're really smart and funny, and they're great people, but like just give this stranger what they want to hear and play the role of the celebrity or the person they've seen on the TV? Or do I burst their bubble and go, that's not their name.
Yeah.
His name's actually Ray. Sometimes he has bad days, just like me. He's a great dude. He's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
But and I would do that sometimes. I would be honest. I would be just a normal person, and it would turn the interaction very weird.
Yeah. Burst their bubble almost.
Yeah. I'm thinking, why is
people need that too?
Yeah. So that was kind of part of my journey of going, oh, this is not right for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that there's so much more option for people, like I said, the Rumble, the YouTube, Spotify, all of that. Like I said earlier, social media is such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
For the good and the, I'll say bad or evil.
Yeah. It can be such a trap, dude.
Just have more intent with what you're showing or what you're looking at.
Yes.
Like people get into the death scroll. Like, why do it?
Yeah, we all do it.
But
it's gamed to make you do that. It's almost impossible not to at times.
My death scrolls, Alex Hormozy, Jordan Peterson. Like, there's a big difference in have more intent of what you're putting in your life, positive, negative.
Yeah.
So much and it's no one's fault, sort of. We could go government-wise.
It's not necessarily the consumer's fault.
Yes, not the consumer's
Let's put it that
fault. There's so much power from corporations to have people in a negative mindset.
Yeah.
And that's a learned behavior. Everything's a learned behavior. So if you're continuously scrolling and looking at all these bad things, you're going to call these bad things into your life. Or if you're wishing for a better life because you see people on Instagram with doing these holidays and things like that, just stop following them. It's so easy.
You can take the power back.
You can take the power. It's so easy. Unfollow.
I do this thing with my Instagram. Instagram's really the only one I use. I don't go on Facebook apart from going on Marketplace, which has its own weird little doom scroll in itself.
Yes.
But I do this thing on Instagram where every few months, I actually just unfollow accounts that are just showing me junk that I don't need to be seeing.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself that I've curated a feed kind of similar to yours. A lot of it's parenting.
Yeah.
A lot of it's like advice on different parenting techniques and how to be a more present father and husband, which I think is I feel good about, you know, going to take a dump and coming out and learning something about how to be a better man, you know.
That sacred toilet time.
That sacred toilet time, you know. And rather than feeling guilty about or like just feeling kind of anxious from just scrolling junk. But see, I post these reels from the podcast on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And so I have to go into TikTok to post the reels.
Yeah.
And I don't follow anyone apart from my wife, who doesn't post anything.
Yeah.
And I don't look at anything because I just know that it's like it's the most powerful one of all those. The other day, I went in there to post a video and I got distracted and something came, the video, because immediately as soon as you open it starts playing something and it got me.
Yeah. Oh.
And like 20 minutes later, I was like, fuck, you got me.
TikTok's a different beast.
Yeah. And the comments is just a cesspit.
Yes.
The way that people speak to each other and speak to me and speak to my guests and stuff on TikTok is the worst of the worst.
Yep.
They are so rude and so negative and it's just so hateful in it. And I just kind of look at it and go, wow, look at you guys. Are you even real?
Yeah. Well, we've got a really solid audience over on TikTok. It's like nearly 130,000 in that audience.
Yeah, wow.
Which is really cool because, again, bringing awareness. Though, we've had a couple of reels just go silly, like 6 million views and things like that, which is fantastic, again, because it's bringing that awareness to it. I
tee off on TikTok, don't they?
Oh, dude, like
is it the same for you? More negativity on TikTok than on any other platform?
I'm going to say on TikTok especially, and Facebook. Instagram's great because the audience on Instagram is around 4,000 at the moment, which is and it's been a real organic.
People who want to be there.
Yes. Where TikTok was just, we had a couple of reels go silly. Same with on the Facebook page. So there's a lot of people that see it. I'm going to say men in particular that are in that old school masculine mindset that just don't make sense of it. And I get it. I don't bite on anything. A couple of times I'll comment from a place of love, like, hey, like these guys, I know you don't make sense of this. These guys are just doing what they think's right for them. Pretty cool. It's not overly cool that you're disrespecting them like that. They've got families. Their sons and daughters now get their father. They don't have to worry about him finishing his life. And when you come out of it at a place with love, response...
That's a deep burn.
A lot of them don't comment back.
No.
Though the comments back that I do get are actually really great. They're like,
that's good, man.
Yeah. So it's just how a lot of them I don't comment back to because on some of them there's thousands and thousands of comments and there is no point. So
it's not about that because at the end of the day, you're putting these things out there in order to find the audience. And if you're finding someone who's not going to be the audience and they just want to throw some hate and some venom at you, dodge it.
That's it. I actually don't care.
Yeah.
Huge. The biggest thing for me is not caring about. So I don't care about a lot of things. I care about everything and I don't care at the same time. There's another one of those paradoxes for you.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was something that we do on our retreats is just through a couple of different processes for them. And even at the workshops, the 6-hour workshops, it's hugely beneficial for them. It's just showing them of how people don't care about what you're actually feeling and what you're saying. So there's a really cool process that we dive into first thing just to get them really uncomfortable to begin with, but it actually brings everyone together. So,
Yeah, most people really are not thinking about anyone but themselves. They're just trying to figure their own shit out.
Or they're too worried about what you're going to think about them. There's so much in it and that's huge power of not caring.
Well, the other thing is like when you, and a good way to kind of remember that is, let's say you go somewhere and you meet someone and you come and you actually do think something about them. You come away going, man, that guy's a real dick. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
At least for me, I go, that guy's a fuckwit.
Yeah.
And I move on with my life.
Yeah.
I'm not hung up on it. I'm not like, I don't really spend much. I might go, I'm not really interested in hanging out with that person anymore. Yeah. But it's kind of as bad as it gets.
Yeah, it is. And I think it was Hormozy that said, he brought it up and I fucking loved it. And he was like, he might have been talking to Chris Williams. Anyway, he's gone, the Queen, one of probably the greatest monarchs the world has ever seen. Have you thought about her since she's passed? So how's the audacity of you thinking that someone you've just met is going to keep on thinking about you in 6 months' time and care what you care about?
Because you might have said something that upset them or was going contrary to their opinion. You
haven't thought about the most powerful queen ever since she passed?
Yeah.
Like, no one's thinking about you.
We're really primitive beings, aren't we? We really are, and we're pretending we know how to handle this super high-tech world, but we are struggling, man.
Yeah.
Like I had this thought last night, actually. I was watching something. It was a performance, and it took me back to this memory of when I was a kid doing musical theatre in high school. And I was watching Bluey. with my daughter.
Yeah.
And there was this
Great
scene.
show.
Yeah, Bluey's amazing.
Yeah.
Deep, man.
Yeah.
There was this scene where Bluey's dad, is his name Bandit? Yeah, Bandit had to go outside and Bingo wanted him to he had to do a dance. He had to do river dance, the Irish dancing. And he was ashamed because all the neighbours were there. And then he was like, no, Bingo wants me to do it. I'm going to fucking do it. So he did it. He did this river dance. And it took me back to when I was doing musical theatre as a kid. In one of the plays that we did, one of the teachers would write this a whole musical every year.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And one of the plays that we did was this pirate-themed musical. And my character and another character had to dress, we were trying to get in on this pirate ship, and we had to dress up as women and do this river dance thing. And I remember when I did it, I must have been 12, 11. And when we did it, we did the river dance, the crowd went absolutely apeshit.
Yeah.
I've never had a more enthusiastic audience in my life. Now, you could say, yeah, that's because they were your parents and they were everyone else's parents. It's all your family and friends watching this silly little school play. And I was like, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's true. But the reason it was such a fulfilling and connected performance is because we were a community.
Yeah.
A small community of people who were able to know everyone. When you're at school, I knew everyone, especially everyone older than me.
Yeah.
I knew all of the people's names and I had a connection with all of them because I think that our brains and our minds were capable of knowing that small number of people.
Yeah.
And once you branch out of that, I think we lose something. Like I feel like as a creature, we really aren't supposed to be trying to connect with more than, I don't know, let's say 200 people. Like I just don't think that we're capable of doing it. And or at least not to any level of depth and fulfillment.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I'm pretty sure there's been studies done on groups of monkeys. I'm not sure what kind of monkeys, apes or chimps. I don't know what but they find a certain number of them that the community of chimps, when they get to like 70, then that's too many and they break off and they form their own little group because they just know that the community is not going to work once it gets above a certain number.
Much, yeah.
And tribal human beings would do that.
Well, you could even broaden that and look at the actual greater community of Australia, how many divisions when you come to politics and the left and the right, and that should show you. Like as soon as, like you said, you're going to get too many numbers and there's going to be splits anyway because there's differences of opinion and people can't handle someone having a different opinion of them these days or a different opinion on something else. So.
But yet, of course they're going to have a different opinion because they live in the other fucking side of the world. Have had a completely different life in every possible aspect.
Yeah.
As opposed to coming back to me doing my school musical performance in Central West New South Wales in Orange with, people, how many people would have been in that auditorium? 100? 150 people, maybe 200, maybe 300 at the very, very most.
Yeah.
And all of us feeling like, I was looking back at that, I've never felt more fulfilled from a performance and I know the audience felt the same.
Yeah.
Because the kids up on stage, they all knew them, their parents were so proud of them. We were so proud to be able to do this performance for our parents, for our families. And it was like, I was thinking, I wonder if Taylor Swift feels that. As deeply as I did when I was 11 doing Riverdance in a wig.
Possibly. Maybe that's why she keeps on doing what
maybe,
she does. Yeah,
maybe.
Who knows?
But, yeah.
I think community's huge. Like being from a smaller country town myself as well, it's one thing that we're really trying to bring back is that feeling of community.
Yeah.
Nadine's got a free community group called Rise on Facebook. I've got Heartled Men on Facebook, and it's just so everyone can come in and have that feeling of community. And every year twice a year, we do a barbecue at Southport, invite anyone that's in the community to come down and feel that, because when I was growing up, you go to your neighbour's place and ask for a cup of sugar. Now, I think too many people would be like, I can't even go across the road because I don't really know that person. Like you're in a neighbourhood where you're living across the road from people for 10, 12 years and you probably don't even know their first name. Like that's sad.
It is sad.
So and we really, when Nadine's dad passed end of October 22, there was a lot of things happening for us. We were caring for him at home full time. He ended up going into a home. He had Alzheimer's, had a stroke. There was so much happening. And there was so many things happening and Nadine's parents had lived in this house since she was 7 years old. So a long, long time. But then there was people that, like, we couldn't go and ask for help, like to their neighbours, which is not right.
Just didn't know them.
Didn't know them. Didn't feel like we could. Like me personally, I didn't know them. It's not from where I'm from though. Nadine's mum, like she didn't feel like she had the safety,
connection with them,
or connection with them to do that. And I really feel that's wrong, because when I was growing up, after born in Coonabarabran and then moved to Atunga, which is a small town outside of Tamworth, like you go knock on the neighbour's door and go, hey, I've got to go get the milk. Do you mind watching the kids? That's just a little thing. There's a lot. I know it's a big bad world out there, and you probably wouldn't leave your kids with just anyone, though. Like, why can't we?
But it wasn't just anyone.
It wasn't. That's right. And why can't we? Like, where's that gone?
Yeah.
Where's that gone? So, yeah, bringing that back.
I had this. I've just started a new job, and it's a corporate environment, and I had to do this welcome day, and there was probably 8 people sitting in this office room around a table for the welcome day. And there was like 10 minutes before we needed to start. So I go in there, hello, no one really says anything. I sit down and I, put my bag down, and then I looked around. There's cheesy, upbeat pop music playing, quite loud.
Yeah, right up your alley.
Yeah. And I look around at all the people, the other trainees, and everyone's on their phone. And I was like, fuck it, I guess I go on my phone. It's not like I was trying. I was there to get the job done and get out of there. It's a boring welcome day. I want to get home to my family. But so it's not like I'm not trying to say that I'm better than everyone else, but it was just like, I was like, I'm not going to sit here and start small talk with these people. No one wants to talk to me. No one wants to talk to anyone. I get it. But this is way more stimulating to sit there on your phone and actually consume something that is curated for your interests and is going to make you feel good. Yeah. Instead of start a conversation with Joanne from Croatia who's in upper management, or Jack who's 19 who's becoming an apprentice chef. And I was like, I guess this is what we do now. And it's just a reflection on the world that we live in, and it's crept up on us.
It has. Yeah. I actually hadn't thought about it like that. And it has crept up on us, though it's been over a long time too, really. So, yeah, look, and it's just so easy to do this. Like,
Well, it's so much more fulfilling.
Is it though?
Well, in the short term it is. Yeah. No, I agree. That's a good point. It's not. No. But in the moment, I feel better than doing that than going, hello, what's your name? My name's Mark. Do we have anything in common?
And everyone's so scared of doing that, because what if we don't? What if the conversation doesn't go great? Yeah. How do you know?
Yeah, it's not going to go as great as, oh, look at that. That guy just fell off a skateboard. Oh, look at that. That, whatever the next thing is. I get it. And we've been hacked.
We have been hacked. And it's, again, coming back to that intent of what you're looking at, what you're sharing, and like, there hasn't been any proper connection for such a long time that everyone's forgotten how to connect. Like, dating apps. There was no such thing as dating apps when I was growing up.
Yeah, I've never been on one.
No,
my wife and I, we've been together 13 years, so we just missed it.
Yeah, same. I there was Facebook, and I think I may have had Instagram at the time.
Yeah, you've ever had MySpace?
No,
you didn't have MySpace.
No, it was I could have, but I didn't. I didn't have a computer or anything back in the day. It wasn't my thing. I was always outside doing stuff. So, but yeah, Facebook, got on that, and I catch up with my cousin, who's my best friend, and we just go back to actually having to go to bars to meet people, meet girls. We didn't have the Tinder and stuff, so there's so much of that happening now that it actually stops us from going out and getting that connection.
Yeah.
So like you actually had to have some conversational skills.
Yeah, but I think it's really, and look, it's easy for me to pass judgment on this because I'm in a committed relationship and I have been ever since the dating apps have been created. But what I can see from the outside is that we have all met a person and gone, well, that there's something really attractive about you. And whether that be a guy or a sexual attraction or just an emotional attraction, you know, I might meet another dude and go, well, I feel like I really would get on with that guy. We've got similar interests.
Yep.
We had a good laugh together. We could be good mates. And I can't tell that from an Instagram post.
No.
Or not that I'm going to be on a dating app looking for guys because I'm straight, but you know, it's the same thing with women. You can meet a member of the opposite sex or whatever you're into and go, you see them in person, and after you hang out with them, then you realize, oh, wow, that person's really sexy.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is, but it's a thing. Whereas they may not present so well in their physical profile, so you get rid of them.
Yeah.
You don't go there.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with, divorce rates, separation rates are at an all-time high. It's because everyone's meeting each other through this digital world, and I'm not saying everyone's doing this though.
A lot of people are. Yeah.
And you're not getting to actually know them first properly. Like you're meeting them through here from a couple of words that they may have on their profile. You're like, oh yeah, this is cool. I've got something in common with them. Do you? Like,
I got a friend he's single and he's really fallen into the dating app trap, because I remember having a conversation with him about, because he was telling me just how unfulfilling it is. And I was saying to him, dude, stop doing it. Go to a bar.
Yeah.
Get a friend. You don't have to be some creep on your own in the corner. Go and hang out with a mate and go to a bar and approach a woman. And he was just like, no. He was like, you can't do that. He was like, women find that creepy.
Yeah. Wow.
I said, I don't believe that. I said, I just don't believe that if you are kind and not a dick about it, that you approach a woman and start a conversation with her that she's going to find you creepy.
Yeah.
But he's like adamant. He's like, I can't do that. That's not how it goes these days.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
They're saying that, but have they even tried?
Well, no.
Yeah. And it's, there's that curse of social media and stuff again too, because everyone's being told that that's creepy and that's not what you do.
Yeah.
So there's so much to it. There's just rabbit holes everywhere that you can go down forever.
There was something that you mentioned before that I really wanted to talk to you about, was the older guys and just the more the masculinity,
the old school
thing.
masculinity. Yeah. This is a huge thing for me.
Yeah. So I had a guy on who was very much in that world, and there was a lot of things that he talked about that I didn't necessarily agree with. And this is kind of what we're talking about at the start, about how I learned a lot from that podcast about, I think I need to push back more.
Yep.
I need to ask more questions and try and get a deeper understanding, because I think I may have even come across as agreeing with stuff that I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
But he did say some, because this is the tricky thing, he had some points that I hadn't heard before that I think made a lot of sense.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring some of this stuff up with you, right? One of the things that he was talking about was the emotional differences between males and females. And one of the points is that he believes that if you, as a man, are spending too much time on feelings and focusing on feelings, that you strengthen that muscle and you become too emotionally reactive. And as a man, we need to be able to be more centered, be the rock, and be able to hold space for our female partner's emotional journey.
Yeah.
And I partly agree with that. I think that there might be some truth to if you spend too much time, that's the important thing, too much time on observing your emotions and feeling your emotions and diving into your emotions and talking about them, that can strengthen that and you can become too emotional.
Hugely. Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's only a generation ago where that old school masculinity mindset was in play. Like my dad's first job as a 6-year-old was dragging logs on a draft horse out of the Pilliga scrub. That's only 60 years ago. Like, so it's close. And I akin it to a lot of people go, I want to parent like my parents. We can't parent like our parents because the world is different. So their model of parenting won't suit today's model of the world. Same with masculinity. That old school masculinity from the wooden ships and iron men days, it doesn't suit today's day and age. So,
well, and just let me just bring up one point about that. Our parents, I'm 30, nearly 38, you're 40, right?
Yeah.
Our parents came from a generation of traumatized parents. They went to war.
Wars, yep.
They went and either killed people, their partners were killed, or their friends were being killed.
Yeah.
Or they knew, like, it's war.
Yeah,
it's fucking trauma.
My wife's grandfather was a POW, World War II.
My grandfather was as well. He was in the Great Escape. My mum's dad.
Wow.
Yeah, he dug the tunnels.
Yeah.
He wasn't one of those that went through, he wasn't elected to go through, but yeah, he dug the tunnels, had to put the dirt in his socks and walk around the prison yard and slowly empty the dirt out.
Wow. So yeah, so
they're parented by traumatized people.
And we're dealing with that now.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's what we get to do.
Yeah.
We get to move that for them and for ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's the lot they were given. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
They're going to soldier on. They were hard men and women.
No fault of their own.
Yeah.
No fault of their own. Though the view of the old school masculinity, that rough and tough man, yeah, it's still around. I get it. Though it doesn't suit today's day and age where the value of masculinity is the same. So the protection, the provider, the strength, the rock, like you said, we get to be all that still, we just do it in a different way. So for a lot of first year on the road, I was the parent. I was a parent. And what a lot of people probably won't make sense of, parenting is actually masculine energy. It's the doing energy. So I wasn't aware of that at the time. Though for my wife to be able to do what she did and create what she created, I had to be the strength. I had to be the support. I had to do all that for her in that value of masculinity, for her to be able to feel safe, secure, supported, for her to create. So
absolutely,
there's so much, and I've done masterclasses on it and everything, because it's such and it's a throwback to like the TikTok where men shouldn't be doing that, men shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, they're not doing that every day. That's just releasing trauma. They're not sitting there and crying and yelling every day. Yes. But it's allowing the space and the capacity for them to actually be in their masculine energy. Because women are doing a way better job these days of masculine energy.
Fucking oath.
Way better. Though it's up to us as men to find our masculine, our divine masculine, so the women can soften and be in their feminine.
Isn't this an interesting place that we've come to? And maybe this is not a very popular opinion, but I don't really care. It's the way that I see it. It seems as though men are being feminized and women are being encouraged to be more masculine.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there's so much more opportunity for women to create businesses and do all that. And that's all the doing energy, which is the masculine energy. And it doesn't mean, so a lot of people will mix up masculine and feminine as that's male, that's female. We all have these energies.
I think that's a hugely important distinction.
And the greatest challenge or problem I'm seeing, especially in this industry, is people are trying to separate these energies too much. It's like we got to just imagine it as a circle. You got light femme, light mass, dark mass, dark femme. When I say dark, it's just the more heavier energy. It's not a bad. And then where you want to sit is right in the center of that, because you want to be able to have that flexibility of behavior to drop into your light masculine, because when we sit in our light masculine, that's when the women feel so safe and supported. And the dark mass is that, I'm the provider, I'm the protector, I'm doing this for our family. That's that energy. And sitting there on the lounge with your daughter watching Bluey, that's your fucking feminine. I love that energy. I love just sitting with my boys and loving and all of that, though. Nurturing, yeah. That's the feminine energy. So women, it is a societal push. I don't know if it's a deliberate push or not. Who knows? Though it is more common to see women in their masculine, and sometimes they have to be because they've grown up without fathers or they're in DB relationships, and being a single mum and things like that, they're actually forced to continuously be in their masculine, and then they don't feel safe being in their feminine. So it's up to us as men to feel safe in our masculine so the women can feel safe in their feminine.
Yeah, because that we can provide an environment where they are safe.
Yeah, because biologically, men are more suited to be in their masculine. We're physically bigger and stronger, and that's what we do. Like you go back to the Stone Ages, they were the providers and protectors, and we still get to be that, however that looks in your dynamic of your family. So again, I used to cop a lot of flack from mates about being a stay-at-home dad.
Right.
Didn't care because I knew my role.
Yep.
Like my role was wasn't more important, was just as important as Nadine creating this company, because without me being in my masculine, doing the family stuff, doing that and her being supported, she wouldn't have been able to create what she did or has.
Yes.
So it's super important. And I think helping people to make sense of that and how masculinity looks these days, instead of going, we need to be tough and we need to fight and we need to do all this. No, we don't need to do that. We can support and be masculine in such a very different way.
Yes.
Look at, I love the Tate brothers. I love what they do.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah, I do. Anyone that wants to help young men or people in general, like their hearts are in the right place. Live in a different country, in a way. Yes, they're very triggering with how they say and do things.
Definitely. But let me just say, I haven't consumed much, if any, of their content. So I'm just speaking from face value.
Yeah. So
the triggering stuff.
Dive in deeper to what they're actually about, and what they're doing is hugely beneficial.
Well, they wouldn't be as famous as they are if they weren't saying something right.
Yeah. So though I disagree with their view on masculinity, respectfully, because they're in a different country. We're in a different country, Eastern European country. Yeah, like probably is a little different over there to how it is here, though I respect their model of the world and how they view it. Though I'm never going to fault them for going, I just want young men to make money, be happy, provide for their families. I'll never knock that, even though I may not agree with exactly what they're doing and how they do it.
Isn't that an interesting thing? Because how can anyone disagree with that? But it's also, I feel like, yeah, but you don't have to be a dick about it. But here's the thing.
So it gets the views.
That's it. Would they be as prevalent as they are if they weren't such dickheads?
No, definitely not. And I think they did a podcast with Patrick Bet-David, and it was, or even Piers Morgan, and the younger Tate brother just was like, I really enjoy this interview, and he goes, I love how you fall for Andrew's traps.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, and he brought up someone that Pierce knew, and he's like, hey, so this is what this guy said 20 years ago. Andrew's saying exactly the same thing, just in a different type of way. Like it's not what he says, it's how he says it. Like with that aggression and that force behind it, which triggers people. And when you take that out of it and actually listen to the context behind of what he's saying and what the meaning of it is, you're like, oh, okay, they're there for the right reasons. So, yeah. And again, like you said, if they hadn't have done and spoken about what they did and how they did it, would they be as prevalent as they would be today? Probably not.
And it's a tricky one too, because I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of young lads who are not going to take away the essence, if that is what their real intention is. They're going to take away the surface womanizing, arrogant, disrespectful facade and be that in the world. So that's where it's tricky.
That's where the trigger is for so many people. And to begin with, yes, I was the same. I'm like, what's going on here? Though learning and knowing what the social media is like, I'm like, okay, I'd go find the full interview and listen into it. I'm like, okay, I got on board. I'm like, okay, how they present and how they say things, not so much. That's not for me. Though why?
It's made them go viral.
Yeah, it has. But their why, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely. Fuck, they're a bit of a.
They're making waves.
They're huge, man. And I've just intentionally kept away because I see things pop up, and it's a lot of us just like, ugh, but it's the shareable stuff where Andrew's saying something really chauvinistic or, you know, something that people can hate on, and it's very easy to hate on. But I do know that, like, I have heard him say things and I'm like, you know, again, that thing from the Big Lebowski, you're not wrong, Walter, you're just an asshole. You know, it's like you are an asshole, but that is a valid point.
Valid point, yeah. So make sense of how they've approached it, because they've had I listened to a lot of their stuff and they've had this plan from the get-go of,
oh, really?
Let's get famous on the internet.
Yeah.
Let's cause some havoc.
Yeah.
Let's get her, like, go to jail or be cancelled or however they want, and then let's change the world.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's been a long plan for them. So
wow, man.
Like,
yeah.
Like, for anyone that wants to just help people and make someone's life better, like, I'm never going to say don't do that.
Sure.
Okay, I can disagree with any way that they want to go about it. Though in the long run scheme of things, if they just want young guys to make money, provide for their families, like, how can you knock that?
Yeah, and I agree with you, and they need to be engaged with in a manner that will force them now or always to cut the shit.
Yeah.
In a manner of, like, don't be disrespectful.
Yeah.
You know, so they need to be put in their place about the things they need to be put in their place about by someone who's intelligent enough to go toe to toe with them and actually, because they're smart guys.
So smart.
Andrew especially, smart. Man, he's got the gift of the gab. He's a very intelligent dude. Yeah. He can talk his way out of the bullshit that he gets himself into.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And they've what I like about them is they don't hide from their past.
Yeah.
They said, look, yes, we did all these things when we were younger, though you can't hold that against us for the rest of our lives, because, yes, our views have changed. How everything changes for them. And that's just two people in this world. The world's so much a bigger place, so there's lots of other people out there doing some great things as well. And in saying that, again, we were talking about the reels that we share.
Yeah.
Like, that's only a small percentage of what actually happens at our retreat, though. If we didn't show that part, we wouldn't get the view.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's about, like, it's all clickbait.
You got to show the tasty stuff.
You do. You
got to dangle the tastiest carrot.
You do. And I will show you, because we've got our reel coming out tonight from it, and I'll show you before we go.
Yeah. Cool.
It's definitely it's going to trigger some people.
Can we talk about the kind of things that you go through with these retreats?
Yeah, sure.
So what's the process? What's someone getting themselves into when they take the plunge?
So for the men's retreat, it's like I'm going to say it's like a footy camp or a school camp just for guys. I purposely host them in these places where it is you're in a room and you're bunking all together. It's bringing guys back to just their young selves.
I remember on school camp one time we had to do cadet camp in my school, so they would take us out just like full army clothes, and now that I look back at it, they were just prepping us to be in the army, and we were all in tents, and they gave us ration packs. And in our ration packs there was, you know, some tinned stuff, some little biscuits, these like little muesli bar things, and a tube of sweetened condensed milk. And one of the guys, he went around like trading stuff for the sweetened condensed milk because he loved it.
Yeah.
And he ate like 15 of these tubes of sweetened condensed milk. And the next morning, the poor bastard shat himself in his tent.
Oh, wow. Yeah, probably never lived that down.
He didn't, because the guy he was in the tent with was like, hey, man. He's like, dude, please don't tell anyone. He's like, I won't tell anyone. I won't tell anyone. First thing he does, goes out the tent and goes, Swino shat himself, and is running around. So that's my memory of school camp.
And there's a traumatic experience.
There's a traumatic experience.
So he'll be on a retreat soon. He's like, oh, shit, I can't shit.
So hopefully there's no sweetened condensed milk.
There's no sweetened condensed milk, no. Though we do that, and so the men can bond really quickly. Again, they form connections here that they would not form anywhere else. They're all in different group chats together. Like from the first retreat, they're in a group chat. Second retreat, they're in a group chat together, and the group chat's still like 12 months on. Still, that there's so much support, and everything, which is fucking beautiful. Though, first day we get them a little uncomfortable, straight up, and again, it's just to show them that no one cares. so why do you care?
Mm.
We generally do that within the first 20 minutes, get them that. And it just actually brings everyone to a grounded feeling. There's the nerves settle, and then we do our little introductions, and there's a couple of different things that happen. Though the yelling and screaming part that you see that we're generally around the waterfalls and stuff, that's within the first 2 hours.
Yeah, wow.
So that's another grip loosener brought on by, we ask them what their biggest limiting beliefs are and things like that, and who's made them feel that way. Who do you blame for feeling that way? For us, this is huge, because we need to ask questions of why and what has this person done and why weren't they, like lots of different things. There's so much purpose as to why we do what we do and when we do it.
Mm.
The release.
These are frightening questions. You sit in that. You actually sit in that on your own. And that's like, oh.
Yeah.
Immediately it's like, oh, I don't want to go there. You know? And I've gone there with these things, and it's still, and obviously there's, I kind of believe that this work is essentially endless.
Mm.
I think, you never become this, maybe if you become the enlightened Buddha, sure. But I've done all the work. I'm good now.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm enlightened.
I'm ready to ascend.
Eternal happiness. Yeah. So again, and I'm not saying we're removing these memories or triggers for them, because they're always going to be there.
Mm.
We're just giving them tools to deal with them.
Yeah, understand themselves.
So they're actually not a trigger anymore. They're just a memory.
Mm.
And we get them really uncomfortable. They do that. Lots of tears, lots of yelling. And again, this is just a grip loosener.
Yeah.
Outside, we bring all the elements into it: wind, earth, fire, water. It's all part of it. Always in bare feet, so they're feeling that energy from the earth. After that, that usually takes a couple of hours. It's hugely draining. I bet it's exhausting. Yeah, so they're all pretty buggered after that. And that's generally all the confronting stuff on that first day. And then we get back to a bit of love,
mm-hmm.
a bit of eye gazing and just bondingness and dinner. And then after dinner, we get into just some chats. There's a meditation take them through, some inner child work, inner child meditation. It's the first time I've done it on the last retreat, and it will always be a part of every retreat now, because it was massive.
Nice.
So who just thought a guided meditation could open someone up so much?
Well, especially once you've set that precedent and got them exploring those darker places.
Yep. Yeah. Then the next morning we talk about having life's backpackable. We love metaphors, love analogies, so get them to picture like life's backpack of bullshit. So you've had this backpack on your entire life and you're filling it with bullshit. Your triggers, your traumas and your parents' stuff, that's all in there, and how much that weighs them down. So we actually have the backpack and make them pack it with sandbags, and we go on a walk, chatting to them the whole time like it's getting heavy, getting uncomfortable. Why do you keep on bringing these traumas and these limiting beliefs with you? Why are you dragging your backpack of bullshit along with you? And get to a point and we ask them to make that conscious and unconscious decision of, are you really ready to let this go? Some guys are like apprehensive about it. I'm like, when you're ready, you empty those sandbags, you empty your backpack. And that's just another level of release for them. It's having that feeling. Everything's based on a feeling. If they can feel that weight lifted, they're going to feel that within themselves. So the most of that morning, it's all about like showing each other gratitude, showing themselves gratitude, being proud of their achievements, things like that. Really bringing them back to, I truly believe the quickest way for a man to start loving himself is to show himself gratitude. Be proud of the things you've done in your life. And the thing with gratitude, people try and get too expansive with it. Just be grateful you woke up. Simple. Just be like, I have huge moments of gratitude where I'm like, I'll be in the car and there'll be something that happens. I'm like, fuck, like how beautiful is this world? How lucky am I to be? I'll get emotional and teary. I'm just like, I'm happy.
That's what gets me.
Yeah.
To the things that get really emotional is gratitude.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Day 2, men's work for me and women's work, especially for Nadine and I, doesn't exist without the opposite sex. They have to be a part of it. For us, for other groups, whatever. But for us, because so many men have wounding from the female, mothers, sisters, partners, all of it. So the women come in and we move into a bit more of an emotional release where we do because everything's energy. And we let them know that, you might feel angry and have no reason or a why behind you feeling that way, though it's in your body. That feeling of anger is in your body somewhere. It doesn't matter if you don't make sense of it, you need to release it. So we end up finding out why, just with our questioning and what we do, and lead them to find out why.
Because they probably don't know why.
No, they don't.
Isn't it something along the lines of our behaviours are like 20% of our conscious mind, the things that we're doing. It's our subconscious mind that is actually
95% is
95
unconscious and 5% conscious.
But yet we think that we're driving the bus.
Yeah. No idea.
We're in the fucking back seat looking the other way.
Yeah, and it's just, and we get these patterns of behaviour from when we're children.
Yes.
So generally, most of the time, it's all something from childhood. And being open and aware to what we are now, everyone in our team is gifted in some sort of way spiritually, whether they see, hear, feel or anything. I know everyone in the entire world is some sort of gift.
Yeah.
How deep that is, it's up to them. Some people aren't open to it, whatever floats your boat. So we're there and we create this room or this cocoon for them to feel and let go of it. And there's some things that happen and the questions that we ask, and it's a big part of trusting our intuition too. Like my wife, she was amazing on it. There was a couple of guys there. She'd see a number. She's like, "What happened when you're 7?" And they'll be like, "Oh, this and this and this happened." I'm like, "How does that make you feel?" "Fucking angry." Let it out. And it's just a process of questioning and drawing these things out of them so they get to think and think and think. So that's where you may see on some of our clips where we've got the mattresses out and they're hitting and yelling and screaming, and it's stored emotion in the body that has to be released.
Every time that my wife goes away, so she's actually been gone now. She's back, but she was gone to New Zealand for her sister's hen's party for 4 days. So it was just me and our daughter.
Yep.
Usually she takes our daughter with her, but this time it was just the two of us. But without fail, every time I'm alone in this house, at some point I just break down and cry. And it's usually because I don't really smoke weed anymore, but when I'm alone, and I don't have my daughter, I'm able to get a little bit cooked.
Yep.
And usually that helps me get there. I really kind of go quite inward and become, think about my life and become very in touch with my feelings and whatever the hell's going on. And usually it's that. But this time, because I had my daughter, I was obviously totally sober and she was asleep and I just started crying. And it just comes out of, and every time I would do psychedelics, without fail, a huge purge of emotion just comes out. So it's interesting that to hear you talking about and to see the footage of these people, these guys having this outburst of emotion. It's like a purge.
Yep.
And that's kind of how it just comes over me. And quite often, in fact, almost always, I don't even know what it's about.
Yeah.
It's just
I've got so many questions.
Yeah. It's just in.
Yeah.
And
which we can go into another time.
Sure. Well, maybe we'll go into it when I come to the retreat.
100%.
That's probably the time and place to do it.
You've just given me so many things to ask you to, like, I think I already know. I feel I already know where it's from, and yeah.
I mean, I feel as though it's trying to carry the weight of the family and be the rock for the females in my life and trying to provide and trying to keep
I'd go straight to when you were a child. Were you that person for your mum and sisters? I don't know if you have sisters or not, though. Was that you?
Yeah.
Pressure?
Mum, dad, sister.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. It all stems from there.
Yeah. Yep, it does.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
And me just saying that now, your unconscious is going, oh, yep, so this is, and you'll probably when I leave here today, you'll start thinking about different things and maybe break down and being as aware as you are, you'll start to break down things and place things together. I'm like, oh, this is probably why, or maybe why. And there's so many people that have done this work that may come back and then start to go into past life, which is huge, generationals. Yeah. And we've had a lot of people, we've only had one man come back and do the retreat again. Really? It was like he come and released a lot on the first one. He's like, I just feel like there's more. I'm like, cool, if you want to be here, be here. It's up to you.
How did he go for round 2?
He had a suppressed emotion, suppressed memory come up from when he was a very young.
Traumatic.
Hugely traumatic.
Fuck.
So abuse.
So he knew it was there, but he didn't know what it was.
Yeah, so he knew that there was something there.
That's why
he's unconscious, and he's come back, and it wasn't until we'd actually been to the waterfall and done a bit of release, and there's more around his father and stuff, which he's like, oh, where'd that come from? It's like people may not know what they're actually there for until they get there as well. And then walking back, I could just feel there was something else, and we just started questioning and asking, and he's like, and it just come to him. He's like, oh, this happened to me when I was whatever age it was, from someone, and it was horrible. Though him even just speaking it and letting it go, and then again the next day when we went into the physical release, because he knew what he had to release, has changed his life.
So he's been walking around his whole life not consciously knowing that he'd been abused.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came to the surface.
It was ready. It was ready. This is what our unconscious mind does for us. It will repress memories
to keep us safe.
For our safety.
It's a coping mechanism.
But
yet we still have to deal with it. Well, we develop behaviours, right, that are 100% based on keeping this darkness, this demon down.
Yep.
But he was able to
let it move it through him and let it go.
And I'm sure that there's a lot of people who are going to go, I don't believe that. I don't believe that's a thing. Yeah. I don't believe you have a suppressed memory.
Yeah. Well, I'll go into something else that a lot of people probably won't believe right now. So for me, when I was doing some unconscious mind work, and similar to like timeline therapy, if anyone knows any about that, deep unconscious mind work, I had removed a lot of things. I shouldn't say remove. I'd replaced memories and feelings with new resources and tools. So like every morning I'd wake up, especially when I was going through my post-traumatic stress, I'd wake up in the shower, the thought to come to my head, I'd be in tears.
Just a side note on that, it's probably because what's the brainwave state you reach when you're in the shower? It's like the same thing when you mow on the lawn. It's like
it's a vibration.
Yeah. And you reach a different, for some reason it's a theta waves or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that had come through, and I'd removed some of this from doing this work, and the next morning I was in the shower and the memory come to my mind, and there was just no emotion attached. And it was because I'd been doing this for 12 months, just having this every morning. And I was in there, I'm like, this is really weird. The memory's there, that there's no emotion attached to it.
Wow.
There's no trigger. I was just like, wow. So during training for these processes, we have to obviously go through them all ourselves, and knowing that we are energy. Everything's made up of atoms. Atoms are energy, so we are energy, and energy cannot be destroyed or anything like that. It can just only be transferred or transmuted, or however you'd like to look at it. So we're connected here energetically. Everyone is. It's a scientific fact. And I was going through this process, and the emotion we were using was sadness. I'm like, I'd done one of the processes on sadness already, and I'm like, okay. And then I was being asked these questions, and one of the questions was this before, during, or after your birth? It's trusting that intuition again.
Your birth?
Yeah, before birth. Trusting my intuition. The before so I just said before. And immediately I dropped into, and there's no way I could know this because my dad had never spoken of it. I dropped into my dad's unconscious, and I was at his dad's funeral when he was 23 years old. He's never spoken of it. And the sadness that I felt was like I immediately broke down, and I knew. So unknowingly, I'd been holding on to this sadness in my body.
It wasn't even yours.
It wasn't even mine. It was my dad's. So I went and spoke to my mum about it, and in detail, was like, this was there, this was there, this was there. She's like, how could you know that? I could just do.
Wow, so it was vivid.
It was vivid. So I could.
You had details.
Oh, and the feeling. So it was funny. Dad's deep in a cancer journey at the moment. I wasn't able to sleep and things like that during some of his treatment. The night I got home, because I was staying with them, Nadine and the boys were elsewhere. I got home and he was up and he was happy and he was moving around, and I hadn't seen him like that for like 18 months. And that night he had a full 12 hours of sleep, which is just.
I have a story that is remarkably similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told it on the podcast before, but I'll tell it again to you because it's so relevant. My wife and I were living in Los Angeles and we were doing mushrooms together.
Yep.
And we were always very intentional by the way we would do it.
Mm.
And we set up the house to be, safe space. We were in our home. We weren't in public. We weren't around strangers. And I got into this place where we were talking about missing home, and it turned really dark.
Yeah,
I got to this point where I thought I was going to pass out, and I was like, "Oh!" I kind of turned around, and I kind of almost did, and I'm on the ground, and then I started. Laurel left the room, and then I started kind of crawling up the hall because I was like, "Oof, I'm fucked." And eventually what ended up happening was I was in the bathroom and I was vomiting and I was shitting and I was just like...
Oh, huge purge.
Huge purge.
Yeah.
I felt so sad. And all I can describe it as is that I had merged with my dad's consciousness, and I was purging his pain. I don't know. It wasn't specific. I didn't have any details, but it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
Yeah.
It was so awful.
Yep.
It was the worst. And it really knocked me around for a good few months after that experience.
Yeah.
And I told him about it a couple of years later because I'd never really talked to Dad about this kind of stuff. He's not that kind of dude, you know. But I told him, I opened up to him, and he listened to the whole story about me, taking psychedelics. And then I feel like I've told this podcast, like this story on every podcast I've done, but it's been such a profound story.
Yeah.
He listens and he goes, He goes, how long ago was this? And at the time I said, I was about 2 years ago. And he goes, maybe that's why about 2 years ago I started feeling a lot better about my life.
Ooh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a goosebumps moment.
Yeah.
And and then he started telling me all this, opening up about his childhood and stuff that happened to him that was really awful with his dad. And sharing things with me that he's never told me that I knew nothing about. And
what a privilege to be able to do that for your dad.
Yeah.
But yes, it can be a burden for us to carry these traumas if we don't do something about it, though. When you're aware of these avenues and things that we can do, what an absolute privilege.
Yeah, it gave me some real closure because I had so much faith and trust in psychedelic medicine, and then after that experience, I didn't know what to think. I was like, oh, this has been awful. This has been a traumatic event for me, and I've been telling people that this medicine's good and that it's medicine, and now I'm messed up and I'm scattered, and it took a while. It really took a toll on me, and then finally, when I told him that and had that experience, I was able to go, I get it.
Yep.
And it actually have come full circle, and that's what needed to happen. It wasn't about having a beautiful, euphoric, trippy time that time. It was about doing some real work. Yeah. And it's not in any way surprising to me that you are able to access those places through the techniques that you guys are doing in the retreats and the techniques that you just know.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to come on a men's retreat because we don't use any plant medicine or psychedelics or anything like that, and I fully think they have all their place for anyone and everyone. I do feel people use them without intent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
setting intentions is huge.
I think it's the only way to do them, or you run the risk of breaking your mind, and all the best.
Yeah, and there's no intention. What's the purpose? So,
to get fucked up. That's why. Because it's in the
and I
same
get that
category
because I was young and fucking did all the things
But
too.
do cocaine.
Yeah.
Don't do mushrooms.
Yep. So the breath work that we use so many different modalities of breath work. So the big one that we use that you would have seen where all the men are yelling and screaming, it's called a holotropic breath work.
I've done this.
You have done holotropic? So it was designed, it was created in the 60s by a Ukrainian gentleman, I think it was Ukrainian, who was using LSD for patients to exactly use for traumatic experiences and post-traumatic stress and all that type of thing. And
That's right. He was trying to get to the same place.
Yeah. So it was all banned and cancelled. So he's like, what a man. He's like, so the LSD was switching other parts of the brain off for the brain to release a chemical that we already have in us. That's the DMT. So we actually have, the body creates DMT itself. So he was like, if we can create it, there must be some way we can do that ourselves to release it. So he started experimenting with breath and things like that. And this is where this was birthed. So holotropic breath is designed for trauma release. And that is the intention of using it at our retreats. Flooding the body with oxygen, starving some of the organs, signals to the brain, floods your body with the DMT. That's what your journey. And like an experience with mushrooms or things like that, it has that journeying effect. Beautiful euphoric feelings. You do, again, we bring the spirituality in it. You will see and get messages from past loved ones or loved ones that are still here, or past, if you have guides, your spirit guides. You will visit different realms. You'll see lots of different things, and it's a beautiful experience. It's one of the most things I get jealous about on the retreats. I'm like, oh, fuck, I wish I could do another breath. Though, again, with intention, we use holotropic breath on our couples retreat, which is just, we had it over the weekend together. Though we set intentions long before anyone gets there of love and connection and an emotional release, not traumatic release. And as long as you set these intentions, breath can do a lot of different things.
Interesting. Yeah, so, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to knowing that you've journeyed on plant medicine and things, because we've had a lot of people come in that have set intentions doing it, and their experience through our breath is out of this world. So I love when that happens. And again, you can go do holotropic breath in a lot of different places, though ours is always different. You'll do the same breath, though. It's what we bring, the intentions we set, the lead up to it, the build up to it. Months before our retreats, I'm doing energetic works, calling stuff in, lots of different things. So even before the day the retreat starts, the three of the facilitators were there. We're calling in all timelines, all dimensions to bring it in. That's like, we're there to help as much as we can and as deep as we can. If it's surface level or this lifetime stuff, perfect. If it's deeper, even better. We're there for it.
So the holotropic breathwork. So I've done it a few times. The first time I did it, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into at all. It was I was at a friend's apartment, and he was like, this is a guy who holds ayahuasca ceremonies. So breathwork was nothing to him. He was like, and I don't think he'd ever kind of facilitated this thing before. And he invited me over, and there were some other people there, and we did it's like that tempo for like just nonstop, basically. And and I went all mangled. I got my face. I was like this.
It's called tetany.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
my hands.
We call it T-Rex arms.
Yeah, I was full T-Rex. I was like I had a stroke. I was absolutely mangled, and I couldn't really. And then I don't know if I went to sleep or what happened, but I kind of passed out. I guess I was dreaming, but it wasn't like a standard sleep. And then I kind of came back to, I don't know if I was still doing the breathing or what, and then that was kind of my first taste of it. I was like, wow, that was
intense.
That was wild.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got a bit hooked on doing it, and I was just doing it on my own.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but I would never really. I would do it with a couple of other friends and trying to rope people into doing it with me. But I didn't really know what I was doing. We weren't really doing it for long enough. We were just doing it to get a bit mangled.
Yep.
And I never really tripped out or anything. But it was always, that full body rush and the tingles and feeling very euphoric about it. So I guess we kind of gotten close. But then more recently here on the Gold Coast, I went to Laurel had actually booked it to go to a breathwork sound bath.
Yep.
And she said, you want to come along? And I was like, I knew nothing about it. And I had a bunch of other things going on. I think I'd had a gig earlier that day. I was like, yeah, I'll come. Yeah. And then she couldn't come. She got her timeline wrong and she'd mixed something up and she couldn't go. So I was like, she was like, I bought the tickets. So I went on my own and I didn't know what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a sound bath. And I get there and it's a sound bath, but it's holotropic breathwork with a sound bath going. I was like, cool. Okay, fuck, here we go.
Yeah.
And we did the cacao beforehand and we did the breathwork and I really don't think I was in the right frame of mind.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a whole lot of, maybe I'm mischaracterizing this. I didn't really set an intention.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to get to, I was just kind of a bit overwhelmed by it all.
So in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did it and I got super mangled and we did it for ages and I was crying as I usually do, but I couldn't connect it to anything. Yeah. And then afterwards I called Laurel and she was like, because she was like, how was it? And I said, babe, that was fucked up. That was the best way I could describe it. She's like, how are you? And I said, I'm not good. I was sitting in the car and I felt sick.
Yeah.
And I was just out of it, man. And then I got sick. Like I got a bug or something straight after that. And I was crook for like a while.
Yeah.
I was not well.
It can be dangerous, I'll say, if there needs to be the support after. Because a holotropic breath can bring up suppressed memories too.
Yeah.
And if the support's not there and you send someone home and they've got this traumatic experience now in their conscious mind, like it can be really not great for people. So there's a lot of, I think everything has its place. So just.
I tend to agree with you on that. I think that after doing that and from my experience with it, that it is very powerful and it does require attention in the aftermath.
Support. Even because we use the holotropic at our workshops. It's one of the last things we do. And basically, they get sent home after, though there's support there. They're all in a group chat afterwards. They got very next day, I'm in contact with every single person. How are you? What's coming up for you? So there's definitely, I guess, safety parameters that can be overlooked, and it's no one's fault because it's such a powerful tool and it's a great experience. I want to go back to when you're mangled. That is your body's response to holding on to trauma.
Really?
Yeah.
Every time, man.
Every time.
I get super mangled. Like to the point where I can't.
That's your body keeping you safe.
Really?
Yeah. So look, yes, you're going to have the cramps and the tinglies in the fingers and stuff. They're going to do that. But as soon as you start doing this, that's you just holding on.
Yeah, well, all right. Got some work to do. I'm so scared, man. I'm like, I know I'm going to come to one of your retreats, but I'm like, every part of my ego is like, don't fucking do that. Don't do that. It's going to be really hard, mate. Yeah. Don't go.
Again, choose your heart.
That's it, dude. Yeah. That's it. I'll come.
Mate, I do a lot. I've done a lot of work, and I went to one of my great mates has another men's group called Amend. And I'm
great name.
I'll happily champion anyone that's doing this work.
Yeah.
And yes, there's competition though. If someone, like the purpose of having so many different groups, because someone may not relate to me and relate to these guys. They're all Maori Polynesian guys, so they're going to get more there.
Sure.
Of that more of that Polynesian group. Though I was just like, he had one of his workshops. I'm like, I'm going to go. Like you never know. Got there. And being...
Well, you're like, I hope it's shit. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yeah, there was two things. I'm like, because they've been doing it for a lot longer than what we have. I'm like, I actually want to go to see what we're doing in our workshops is up to scratch.
Yeah,
you know?
of course.
So I went to their workshop just to, again, like business-wise, it was a smart move of me to go, okay, if we're not providing something similar or better, then I need to step up my game. So there was that, and there was like, you just never know. There might be something that I'm holding on to that might come up for me, and being fully aware and open to that. Got there, and I'd already actually figured out what I was holding on to before I got there. So by the time I got there, I'd already moved through it. And it was just I was holding resentment towards my dad about not putting more effort into his cancer journey and helping himself more, which I'm at peace with, which was a huge thing for me as well, because I got there and I was able to just step into like help men feel comfortable, because I was like, they do a similar thing. They get you uncomfortable to begin with. I was like, yeah, I'll go first. Like I had no issue with doing that, which helps other men feel more relaxed. So I'd put my hand up to go first a couple of times, but then I stepped back. They got to experience breathwork through them, which was beautiful. And again, I've done many different breaths, holotropics, and had the releases and where this one, I didn't have a release. It was just all messages for me and just a feeling of absolute inner peace. I was just like, I was laughing. And then towards the end, I started getting lots of colours and visuals and stuff. Though for me, doing the work that I do, knowing I've had spiritual mentors and knowing certain people can only work with certain cultures and things like that. You need permission and things like that. One of my great mates, who is now a facilitator, is Maori, and he came on our first retreat, and he released huge generational traumas for himself and his family. Being Maori, unconsciously, I was told that before unconsciously, I was told that I needed permission from Maori spirit to provide work for Polynesians and Maoris and stuff. Though doing that gave me my permission for him, because he was able to do that through us. So unconsciously I knew that, though I hadn't had that sign or visual. So at the end of my breath, I had all the tanifas, the Maori spirit guides, show up for me. And I was just like, and at first I was like, like I didn't make sense of the message. I'm like, what's this for? So I rang Ray straight away. I'm like, hey, I didn't know what they were called. I'm like, they look like this. So
could you see them?
I could see them, yeah. So they I had about 8 or 9 different tanifas show up for me. It just looks like, do you know if you follow rugby league, the New Zealand Warriors logo? That's what a tanifa is. So I had like 8 or 9 of those show up, every sort of...
It's like a kind of menacing tribal face.
Yeah, like a lot of different areas and provinces have these different tanifas. So they showed up for me, and I rang Ray, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's a message from me for Ray. So I rang him, I'm like, we were discussing it. I'm like, no, that doesn't feel right. And then got home, and I remembered my first spiritual mentor years ago saying all this stuff. And I'm like, that's my permission piece to work and provide the work for Maori and Polynesian guys. So
wow,
yeah, these are the...
So this came to you during breathwork?
Yeah.
Well, you had a full-on trip.
Yeah. Yep, which a lot of people do. So
wow,
it's perfect.
How good, man. That was the purpose of that.
That was the purpose of that. That was only end of last year, so
wow,
that's good. So any breath work that you do will be different to the previous breath work that you do as well. So yeah.
It's like any time you ever do any. Have you ever done any psychedelics?
Not with intention.
Right.
When I was younger and sillier and had no purpose.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's when you do. I guess it's the same thing then. Yeah. When you do. Yeah, with intention.
Yeah.
Each time it's terrifying.
Because, I mean, who doesn't go to Bali and have mushy shakes and things like that? That's what you do. So.
Well, people who've done mushies before, I'm like, absolutely not, because that's not the place or the time to be doing it. But if you've never done it, you'd be like, yeah, fuck it.
So many people are unaware of that, and I was unaware at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's just kind of a thing that you do.
Yeah. Fun thing.
Hold on, man. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just had a retreat, didn't you?
Yeah. Look, we've had a big 3 weeks, had our workshops 3 weeks ago, men's retreat 2 weeks ago, and just come off our couples retreat, just finished on the weekend. So, yeah, loved the couples. I love the couples work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nadine and I, it's a huge love for us. We've been to that dark place in our marriage. Like I was literally walking out the door. I thought, for me, it was too far gone. There was so much had happened. There was so many betrayals of trust and lies, and mostly on my part, though we've both taken our faults in that. Like it's a 50-50 for us there. The 50-50 blame. We hold ourselves accountable for each part of that. Though knowing there was always love there, and I was out the door because I was like, what if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? And she'd said this a few times. I just landed differently. She's like, but what if it does? I was like, you know what? What if it does? Mm. That's when we were doing all the work, the psychs and the couples marriage counselling and all that stuff. I spent a long time going to different places and different things, and we were just like, imagine if we were able to take the best bits of everything and put it into one little package. And that's what we've done. Along with the spiritual, holistic side, it's all in that. And the fact, again, like we've been there. We've been there. We know what it's like for them. Yeah. And we truly believe that it's so much easier, or a societal belief that it's easier to quit because it might get a little hard for couples. So there's so many couples that wave the white flag these days before they really, really try. Mm. They're like, because like for us, it was how many times we hear it? Oh, you may as well split now instead of trying in case you split later for your kids. Like think of the kids. Like don't put them through that. Though, what if it all works out? What if your kids get to see you fight for your love and make it work and have the most beautiful, happy ending that you could possibly work for? So for us, those dark, deep holes are actually where the diamonds are. Mm-hmm. Truly where the diamonds are. And again, I've got so much to thank for my wife for leading herself to her highest self. So I could actually go, so she modeled that for me so I could go, I need to be the fucking best version of myself. I need to hold myself to the highest projection every day. Not only like for myself first, for my wife secondly, and then for my kids. So a big thing, and this is a trigger for a lot of people in relationships, is the single most important relationship you have is the one with yourself. So you need to put yourself first every day. The second for us is our relationship with our marriage. That is the second most important relationship. And our third most important relationship is with our kids. If you think about it, the relationship with your kids is unconditional. They could do absolutely everything or anything, and you're going to love them no matter what. Marriage, there's conditions. You sign a marriage certificate, you're under contract, and there's conditions with the relationship with yourself. So showing our kids that I'm the most important person, that my marriage is the second most important thing, shows them what they need to do for themselves. So how many times have you told like you'll tell your daughter, you are beautiful, you are the best, you're the greatest, you can do it anything. They're not going to believe that if you don't believe that in yourself. So now I've asked so many men, can you look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself? 9 times out of 10 they'll say no, which is really wrong. Really, really wrong. I could see there's a little reaction in you then. You thought, could you say that to yourself?
Yeah, trying to put myself in that situation, and it's something that that's not a new concept to me. So it doesn't mean it doesn't sting because we all go through things.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say is that it's easy to go, oh well, you can't be prioritizing yourself before your kids.
Yeah, it's huge,
But how can you actually prioritize your kids if you just think that you're a piece of shit and living like you're a piece of shit?
Yeah,
it's not a good environment for your kids.
What type of relationship is that modeling to your kids?
Yeah,
how many couples and relationships are arguing and fighting and then have no intimacy or connection?
Yeah.
And you want your kids to have intimacy and connection in their relationships.
Yes.
So, but what are they seeing? They're going to call that in for themselves. It's a pattern.
Yeah. I was listening to, this was a parenting thing recently where it was talking about the ideal situation for your children when it comes to having a disagreement with your partner. And there's a school of thought that says, oh, definitely never argue in front of your kids. But this idea was more like what is more healthy is for your children, they need to see you disagree healthily. They don't need to see you screaming, and definitely they don't need to see any violence. I mean, nobody needs to see any violence, but they need to see you healthily disagreeing, it's okay for you to have emotions, then they need to see you resolve it. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because you can't not disagree with another person that you live with.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Because if you don't, you're bullshitting.
Yeah.
So you're hiding yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the only option.
Yeah.
They need to see a healthy disagreement and a healthy ending.
Yeah, hugely. And again, we live in a caravan, so we're on each other's. Like, we work together every day. We live in a caravan. There's not much space. So yeah, we're going to get on each other's nerves and argue and have discussions. And the kids see that because they're right in the caravan with us.
Yeah,
though they see us reconcile every single time.
Yeah,
and I love that where you brought up where you said resolve. So here's where we sort of. And I know that you'll think about this in a great way, is we don't resolve any arguments. We manage them. Because if you resolve something, you're kind of sweeping it under the rug. So if we're managing our disagreements and the triggers that come up for us, we're actually finding ways to foresee those in the future. So if you're managing it, you can get to the bottom of it. Oh, this is why this has triggered me. This is why this has triggered me. Okay, let's manage this so we can see this coming in the future.
Yeah, okay.
It's just a different angle. And I do make sense of the word resolve and how you used it.
Yes.
Though unconsciously, our brain will go sweep it under the rug.
It's more, okay. I see what you mean. Resolve can almost be traded out with diffuse.
Yeah. So that's for the couples though, where the men's retreat's called resolve.
Okay.
Because we actually do resolve those internal challenges for themselves. So, yeah.
Man, you guys, both of you spend a lot of time in a place where most people, where a lot of people don't ever go. Or, they either don't ever go there or they do everything they can to avoid it as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that you are able to very easily see people's shadow just kind of present itself without them knowing after doing all this kind of work?
It gets easier and easier each time.
That must be kind of weird for you. I can see how that might be difficult at times.
It can be, because there's a lot of people where like, we could help you help yourself so much, though by saying a few things, though some people aren't ready for that.
No.
So it's definitely a piece of when not to say things, especially with friends and family and stuff like that.
Well, that's the hardest one.
Yeah. So
like a stranger's one, okay, well, if we never see each other again and I upset you or we don't talk about anything, fine. But friends and family, people that you love.
So it's just like, because we live this work and practice it every day, it's just we are the work.
Yeah.
And if people want to, like, they've seen the change in us and what it's done for us and what it's created for us, for our kids. So it's modelling that behaviour. Now my mum's done some work, my sister's done some work. It's like that's happening. So it's you can ask someone or tell someone to do something over and over and over again. They'll never do it though. If you just be it, they'll see it and feel it. So
it's the advice they give to kids. You know, you have to. Yeah, it's really the truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
As much as we think that you need to say things, you need to be things.
Be things.
You need to do it yourself.
Yep.
Lead by example.
Yeah.
It's really. It just is the truth, and it's the hard road.
It seems like now for me, it's like it's so simple.
It is simple. It doesn't mean it's easy.
No,
but it is fucking simple,
it's simple.
Man.
And then and people like this. Here's the thing with what we do. Everyone's going, oh, it's so hard to work on yourself, so hard, and we make sense of that. It's not really. Again, choose your hard. What's harder? Living the rest of your life, doubting yourself, not liking yourself, or spending 3 days on a retreat or going into a program for 6 weeks to be that best version of yourself. What is really harder? And the fact that we have so much fun while we're doing it, like people, that's what I said, like it gets to be fun as well. Like there's so much joking, so much laughter. Like I can't help myself and not if there's a sexual innuendo joke that comes up, I have to say it. I have to. Like it's and I think it helps people relax too.
Yeah,
like and couples retreat. It's just like there's talk of butt plugs and like there's so much shit.
Yeah.
Makes it fun because it can be fun.
Yes. Well, it's still life.
Yes.
It's still this is still.
Yep.
Part
still
of your
life.
Yeah.
100%.
You need to be able to enjoy it.
Yep.
Otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of think it's like almost like a kind of like a bungee jump. I've never been bungee jumping because I'm fucking terrified, but it kind of feels like that. Like when I think about, okay, I need to come to a Heartled Warriors retreat now, I feel like I'm about to do a bungee jump and I'm really scared.
Yep.
And it's that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And I know that it's going to be exhilarating and terrifying, and I'm going to come out with such a rush and a new experience and a new lease on life. But I have to go through something really challenging in order to get to that next thing. Definitely.
Again,
you look, I'm already getting mangled, you know?
You know, it's coming.
Yeah.
No, it's look, there's so much purpose to why we do what we do. When we like down to the music we use, there's so much purpose behind everything that we do. People ask what's your mission? What's the mission? And I always tell them it's to change the world. Like that's like people are like, oh, that's
grandiose.
But it is, because in one generation we could actually remove all the generational trauma from everyone, and then everyone can just have their own trauma. Wouldn't that be a different world to live in?
And as we talked about earlier with the foster kids who are being abused, they're being abused by children who were abused in some way.
Yep.
Who have not been able to process their trauma.
Yeah, and they don't know any better.
Yeah.
Like I'm not against anything, but I can see I'm against that 100%, though at the same time being where I am, and I can have a lens of like, fuck, I wonder what they've been through to put them through to do that.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that very much.
No.
Whereas if you dig into that, it's like 100% of the cases of people that we class as evil. You know, like I watched that documentary, the R. Kelly documentary, and he did some fucked up shit, man. He did some really messed up stuff. And I was waiting for the part in the documentary where they talk about his history, because I was like, man, what's happened to this dude?
They won't do that.
And they did it for probably 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Not much at all, but eventually, you know, so he's a sexual deviant essentially, you know, basically done all these horrible things to women sexually, making them slaves, underage women, all this kind of stuff. And it comes out that there's this one tiny little part in the documentary where it comes out that he was molested by his sister, I think it was. His much older sister or someone, it was something, it was I think it was that. When he was a little boy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's your reason as to what's fucked him up and made him do this stuff. Now, it's not an excuse by any means, but I just feel like, shouldn't we be focusing on, okay, we can diagnose what's happened here. That's where a diagnosis is important.
And like you said, there's no excuse, because he had the choice to do or not to do, and he still chose the wrong. In our minds, the wrong thing to do.
But would he have done it if he hadn't been abused as a child?
We don't know.
No, we don't know.
Possibly not.
But almost, we
know that he did do it because of his childhood.
It definitely correlates.
Yes.
You know, and look, and there are lots of people who have been abused who don't become abusers. Yeah, absolutely. But there are almost no people who have become abusers who haven't been abused,
unless they're a psychopath. That's just there's a different kettle of fish.
Well, that's the thing. That's really interesting to me, what an actual psychopath is, because you see all these movies where there's an evil bad guy, right? But I just don't think that's really how it works in life.
No. So a psychopath doesn't necessarily have to be evil. I guess everyone thinks that word psychopath has such a negative context to it or around it, where what if I was a psychopath? and I just want to fucking help people.
So what does it technically mean? Do you know?
To be honest, no.
Yeah, I don't either.
I know I have dove into it. So to speak on the actual meaning, I'd be completely wrong.
Yeah.
Though I just know it's a different kettle of fish altogether, and it doesn't necessarily mean someone's going to be evil.
Mm.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anyone through that's been quite frightening? Anyone that seemed to be unhinged?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. To probably the public, 100%. Though there's a guy on the last retreat, big guy, 6'4", just a big man, a lot of man, and you could imagine
if he throws his weight around.
Yeah, that he'd be scary, and like though there's never been a moment where I've been worried. That could be a little bit of ego, though. Ego's great. We want ego. Though I just feel within myself, I can, like, they're there for a reason.
Yeah, they're not. It's not really. Yeah, they're there.
Yeah,
they're where they are.
Yeah,
then you're not exactly coming across.
And as much as we don't want these men to pedestal myself or the facilitators, they do, because it's a point of authority.
Sure.
For them, which definitely helps. So the thing with this guy, he was going around in circles, and a lot of the time, everything we do and hold in this space is from the light masculine, because it's safe and supportive. So there's times where we need to be assertive and dominant. And there was a point where I just fucking dark masked him. Had to, and he just become this little boy.
Really?
Just this little boy. I could see it. He just transformed into this little boy, and he was in tears. But it's what he needed at that time.
Interesting.
To be able to go, boom, and then it just all come. It all flooded.
Great foresight from you to be able to see that it was a facade.
Hugely.
Yeah.
Hugely. It was because it's called an AD loop. He kept on looping on a story. We'd get him into his feeling, and then he'd go back to a story. So it's called an ADK loop. Everyone has these.
What does that stand for?
Everyone has rep systems. It's how we learn. So everyone has 4 major rep systems. There's AD, which is auditory digital, where it's all your thinking. Visual, so you imagine things really easy. Auditory, which is your hearing, and then kinesthetic, which is all your feeling and love. So there's a different way. This is really cool for people to learn too, because it actually helps in relationships. Like my partner learns best through feeling. So if you want to explain someone to them, you grab them by their hand, because then you've got their attention and they'll actually listen. So he was in an ADK loop. We'd get him into his feelings, but then he'd go back to his head and then start going to the story, like he was worried of judgment, and just it was about family. And a lot of people think that because you don't like your family, you hate them, and you're not supposed to hate your family and things like that. We're like, you don't have to hate them, but you can't, like, it doesn't mean you hate them. It's okay not to like them. And that was really difficult for him to make sense of. So we got to show him that it was okay to be angry at things that had happened to him in his past. Doesn't mean you don't love your mum or your dad or anyone in your family any less. So yeah, it's huge.
Fuck, it's heavy shit, man.
Love it. It's just like I'm so happy that I was actually able to do this for myself and find my passion and purpose.
Yeah.
And just that feeling that I had that day, I can go back to it any time. It's that feeling, and then it's a feeling of power, it's all of it, all in one, and just being able to help each other, help other people feel that way, because everyone deserves to feel like that. Everyone. So, yeah, just
beautiful, man.
Yeah, I could have been a statistic. Could have easily been a statistic, and then my boys never have a father, my wife a single mum. 9 Australians a day are taking their lives, 7 of them men. So yes, our goal is to change the world, but I want to see that statistic as a 0. Like, unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever see it in my lifetime. Though, if we create what we're doing enough, and there's other people that go do their versions of it, and then there's more and more of it, then maybe one day. One day, then sons and daughters won't have the news of their dad or their mum taking their lives. There won't be police knocking at the door of your parents' place saying that your son or daughter's taken, like there's this, like that doesn't have to happen. So
it's an interesting statistic when you look at how many of us are taking our own lives. Like as a species, we're living in a state where we have removed so much discomfort from our living environment. You know, we're sitting here in an air-conditioned room. We've got all the food we could ever need, more food. Our problem is we're getting too fat. We've got too much food. And yet we're more mentally unwell than we've ever been through our history, through our recorded history. So we're doing it wrong.
Yeah. So everyone thinks people take their lives because they feel too much. It's the exact opposite.
You're right, they feel numb.
They're not feeling anything.
They're not connected, yeah.
Why people want to shut their feelings off? Why? This is where we go on the medication, because I've been on it. I took myself off it because I knew I didn't need it.
What did it feel like?
It's just numb. I couldn't feel anything. Wasn't feeling happy. Like, yes, I wasn't feeling...
Sad?
No, because I wasn't feeling to begin with.
Right.
And that just had that more and more. So that wasn't feeling more. When I started feeling, that's when I was able to grow and feeling, like emotions are fantastic. Feeling angry. Everyone's like, oh, you can't be angry. Why not? Anger's great. Healthy anger is great. Healthy anger can be a huge motivator for people, huge driver. Sadness, like grief. No one knows really how to grieve properly. Just grieve whatever way you want to. Happiness, like who doesn't want to feel happy? Love, love's the only true emotion. Everything comes from love. You get angry at your kids, why?
Because you care.
Yeah. So like love is, everything comes from love.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
100% believe that. So yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard that, but that makes a lot of sense.
You're sad, it's from love. Someone's hurt you that you love, like it's all there. You, like I said, I always go back to the kids because I've got them. It's an easy way to help people relate and make sense of it. Though disciplining them or telling them not to do something, like how many times do you want your kids not to jump off the lounge because you can see something bad happen?
Yeah.
That's just coming, and then they do it, and then you get angry, and you're like, oh, it's only just from love.
Yeah. It's funny. It's not funny at all. I've got a friend who overdosed a couple of years, a year and a half ago, and he was in and out of rehab a bunch of times, and he was a very deep thinker, which was, we would have some really deep conversations. And he once said to me that he was saying people would think that the opposite of like addiction would be sobriety, but he's like, it's actually not. The opposite of addiction is connection. And he'd learned that, and he'd come to a really, really good place. And then I lost touch. We lost touch because I moved up here, and it was our relationship was a little strained because he was hard work.
Yeah.
He was in a dark place.
Yeah.
And when he was good, he was really great. And when he was not, it was hard work. And it was interesting to hear that. And the opposite of addiction is actually connection. Which speaks very much to, not feeling. If you are addicted, you're looking for feeling.
Yeah.
You're looking for, give me something.
Yeah, fuck, I love that. That's really cool. It's not sobriety, it's connection. Makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense. And again, like talking about sobriety, I don't know the exact statistics, but how many people go into rehab and then relapse every single time?
Yeah.
They're all great in rehab. Life's great. Put them back in that old environment.
Yeah.
It's going to happen again and
yeah.
again. I think it's like something like 87% of people relapse.
Really?
Because they go back to that same environment.
Yeah,
it's the people that get out of rehab and get themselves away from where they used to be.
Yeah.
It's like, and then map that across to anywhere. Like we removed ourselves from our environment, and it just created this space for us to do what we do now.
So where are you based at the moment?
Gold Coast. So we don't have.
Where's the van?
It's over in Perth.
It's in Perth.
It's in Perth. The van and the car are over in Perth. The dog's in a pet resort in Perth.
Okay.
We fly back 3 times a year. We're from wherever we are.
Yeah.
To run these retreats. It's only twice a year now. We've taken sort of one round of them out to, I guess, create some more space for us, because there's a lot that goes into it. So it's only twice a year that we do two of each year. So yeah, Perth, and yeah, I think we head back, when is it, 8th of March. Looking forward to getting back there and heading up the West Coast. So yeah, I was Gold Coast. We were Gold Coast before we set off. So everything's basically, my parents are out in the state forest acreage out that way. Nadine's family home's on the Sunshine Coast. So we just float between here and there when we're back, and
nice.
Airbnbs and things
living
like that.
The dream,
so,
man.
We're living our dream, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah.
So we also we'll go back to the van, 2.5 months of travel. Hopefully end up in Darwin by that time.
Okay.
Everything will go back in storage. Then back here to run the last round of retreats this year in June. And then we're off to the Philippines for however long.
Nice.
Our operations manager and our what's his title? It doesn't matter, but they're both from the Philippines. They're based there, so they're both mentors. And end of last year, we actually hosted our first retreat in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
Amazing. Hosted it in Mindanao. And if anyone has a chance to look up the history of Mindanao, you'll just see the generational trauma of that country.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. And the reason why it means so much to us is Nadine is quarter Filipino. Her mum's Spanish Filo. So my boys are part Filipino. So to branch out and that be the first country we ever do something in is hugely beneficial for us.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't pick my boys being Filipino. They're blonde hair, blue eyes. So yeah.
Yeah, wow, man. So where can folks find you guys? What's the best place?
All online. So all across all platforms, it's Heartled Warriors, Heartled_Warriors, or www.heartledwarriors.com.au. And then Nadine is just on all platforms, Nadine Muller, and nadinemuller.com.au. We're all there. It's all there.
Awesome.
Just reach out. Like we make it a purpose that anyone that is in our inbox or messages, it's us that you're getting. When you're messaging us, we're talking to you. So,
right.
Yeah.
Perfect, man.
Yeah.
Mate, thanks for coming on. This has been a really great chat.
It has been. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me on. Again, it's been a really big goal of mine to get on more podcasts this year to, again, bring more awareness to it. And I believe, I know you do too, believe in that divine timing. That clip of you and Shandor come up, and I'm like, oh, and I jumped on your page because I've seen you on different things before, and was followed back. I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, this is really cool.
Yeah, I was already there, man.
Yeah, I was just like, there's a reason for this.
Yeah, I was just trying to keep you at bay, trying to find reasons not to come.
You're in now.
Yeah, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Awesome, brother.
Thank you, my man. I
Thanks,
appreciate your time.
See you soon, bro.
Cool.
See you, everyone.